tonight's council meeting. We're going to go a bit out of order. The Columbus City Council is joining with the City Attorney's Office to make sure that we are highlighting the life legacy of Caitlin Spar. And to start us off, we have the color guard here to present the colors.
Mark time. Mark. Detail. Lift. Face. Freeze it. Arms.
Play the national anthem. Councilmember Ross, would you lead us in the pledge? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arms. Right. Face. Hold. Mark.
Minister Joshua Goshe of City Zion of Church is here to pray with us. Minister, will you come forward?
Good afternoon, Council. Let us have a word of prayer. O most gracious and all-wise God, creator of heaven and of earth, we first come before you to say thank you. We thank you for this day. We thank you for the meeting that is getting ready to transpire. We pray and ask that you be with us during this time and all others. May we lead with integrity, may we lead with a shaped purpose and mission, and may we lead in a way that would be acceptable unto thy sight. We ask that you bless this council, be with those who are forming and making policies, ordinances, and resolutions. Grant them with wisdom, discernment, and a heart for the people whom they have been called to serve. May the decisions made in this chamber promote justice, fairness, and the common good. May you touch the hearts of all those whom council seeks to help, support, protect, and serve. As the lily of the valley and the bright and morning star, we ask that you lift up every head, encourage the discouraged, strengthen the weary, for you are a rock in a weary land, and provide hope to those who may feel hopeless. We pray and ask that your joy shall abound in this place and within us, that we may be able to go forth and carry out righteous legislation, for we know that the plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty, meaning that when we take the time to think things through, to plan carefully, and to move with wisdom and discernment, we're more likely to produce good fruit and lasting results. But when we act too quickly and without proper consideration, we risk missing the mark and falling short of what can truly benefit the people we serve. As the word declares, give justice to the weak and the fearless, maintain the right of the afflicted and the destitute. May that charge remain before us as we seek to serve this great city and its people. In your name we pray, and let all of those who are also in agreement say amen.
Amen. Clerk, please call the roll. This is when, after you do the resolution.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden. Any person who takes any action to obstruct or interfere with the conduct of tonight's meeting may be charged with disturbing a lawful meeting pursuant to Columbus City Code 2317.12. Any person who enters those areas of city council chambers reserved for city officials or invited guests may be charged with criminal trespass pursuant to Columbus City Code 2311.21.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Are there any additions or corrections to the journal? Hearing none, the journal is approved. This week's communications received by the city clerk's office are listed on the agenda and will be published in the city bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
We're going to go around the dais, but again, because of this day, that we slow down to honor one of our own, I'm going to go out of order and turn the podium over to Councilmember Ross.
Thank you, Council President Harden. Today, we have resolution number 0137X-2026 to recognize and honor the life, service, and legacy of Caitlin Sfar. Thank you. We have several speakers that have come tonight to honor and recognize the service of our fallen colleague at the Columbus City Attorney's Office. And so at this time, I would like to call to the podium for remarks on behalf of the courts, Judge Zach Gwynn, on behalf of the Columbus City Attorney's Office, Melanie Tobias, and on behalf of the Division of Police, Deputy Chief Convis. As they are coming forward, I would like to introduce Resolution 0137X-2026 to recognize and honor the life, service, and legacy of Caitlin Sfar. Tonight, as we gather to recognize Caitlin's life and commitment to service, I extend my deepest condolences to the family. I wish you strength in the days ahead and memories that provide comfort during this difficult time. Whereas Caitlin Sfar was born on April 10th of 1994 to Tammy and Eric Sfar, and from an early age demonstrated compassion, intelligence, and a deep commitment to helping others. Whereas Caitlin dedicated her professional life to serving the ends of justice, graduating from Miami University in 2016 and Case Western University School of Law in 2019, before beginning her prosecutorial career in Athens, Ohio. Whereas Caitlin continued her service to the public as a prosecutor for the City of Columbus beginning in 2022, where she brought diligence, integrity, and unwavering dedication to every case she handled. Whereas Caitlin's colleagues remember her not only for her sharp legal mind, but also for her kindness, determination, and genuine care for others. Whereas Caitlin's commitment to victims of crime, her professionalism, and her ability to work collaboratively earned the respect of law enforcement officers, defense counsel, judges, witnesses, and all who interacted with her. Whereas during her 4 years with the City Attorney's Office, Caitlin exemplified the highest standards of teamwork, always ready to offer guidance, support, or simply a listening ear to her coworkers during challenging times. Whereas Caitlin brought people together, whether encouraging colleagues to join the Columbus Recreation and Park Softball League, just join the team for fun. You don't even have to know how to play. Or organizing weekly Chipotle lunches that strengthen bonds within the office. Whereas Caitlin was a devoted and loving sister, survived by her 5 siblings, including her twin, with whom she shared countless adventures, trips, game nights, and themed gatherings that reflected her joyful spirit. Whereas Ms. Sfar's life was marked by kindness, generosity, and a profound commitment to family, friendship, and service, leaving an enduring impact on all who had the privilege of knowing her. Therefore, be it resolved that the Columbus City Council formally recognizes and honors the life, service, and legacy of Caitlin, and her commitment to public service shall be remembered with gratitude and admiration. Columbus City Council extends its deepest condolences to Caitlin's family, friends, and colleagues, and honors her memory with profound respect. With that, I would ask Judge Gwynn You are welcome to give remarks first, then we'll be followed by Assistant Chief Convis, followed by Attorney Melanie Tobias.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I'm Judge Zach Gwynn, and I had the pleasure of having Caitlin practice in front of me. I first want to thank Columbus City Council and Councilmember Ross for honoring Caitlin and for allowing her friends and colleagues to speak. I'll first note that Western wear is not my typical attire, but that it was important to Caitlin and her friends and family, specifically asked for folks to wear that at her funeral. I also want to note that both the City Attorney's Office is present, but also the Franklin County Public Defender's Office has made a great showing here today, having their staff present, and I think that is representative of the type of person that Caitlin was. Caitlin joined our courtroom nearly a year ago as part of her rotation, and during that time, I had the chance to observe her demeanor and how well she handled running a docket of well over 300 cases. What I saw was an incredible and dedicated public servant who worked with defendants, victims, other attorneys, and the public with grace and composure. As a former employee of the Columbus City Attorney's Office, I know about the deep bonds that employees create with one another, whether it be teaming up on a jury trial, arguing with each other over challenging legal issues, or just sitting in the lunchroom talking about a dramatic moment or quirky character that came through municipal court, and believe me, there are many. The office becomes and is a family. Caitlin was an integral part of this family of attorneys and staff. I observed her first jump in a second chair to assist a newer prosecutor on a serious and complicated jury trial, and as her colleagues have noted to us, she was always happy to organize and take part in group outings. Per her colleagues, her personality made it such that everyone always wanted to be around her. She even received the highest de facto honor of being made social chair of the office. Now, however, the role of a prosecuting attorney is also a weighty one. A prosecutor has more control over life, liberty, and reputation than most people realize. This is why the role of a prosecutor also carries an important burden that other attorneys are not specifically charged with, and that is to be both fair and just, and whether that be zealously advocating for the prosecution or exercising the discretion not to pursue charges. The duty of the prosecutor is not to win cases and secure convictions, but to ensure that justice is done. And Caitlin made sure that happened day in and day out. In her role, Caitlin could work with any person from any walk of life. She displayed empathy for both defendants and victims that came to our courtroom and pursued cases with a clear-eyed sense of justice. Never too rigid, but definitely never a pushover, which is a balance that some attorneys spend their whole career trying to attain. She was an excellent advocate, able to identify important legal issues and explain to a jury why they mattered, and in a way that anyone could understand. Again, a skill that some attorneys spend their entire career never fully grasping. Finally, I'll note, on one of our first days back after Caitlin's death, we had a defendant who was pleading guilty to a charge. And as part of my colloquy, I asked if there's anything they'd like to tell us about themselves or about the incident. And totally unprompted, this person began to tear up and talk about how sorry she was for the loss of Caitlin and what a caring and compassionate person she had been to work with. A defendant tearfully thanking the prosecutor. That doesn't happen every day. But we really shouldn't have been surprised. Caitlin wasn't just smart, professional, and diligent. She was also caring, and I know made our entire community a better and safer place. Thank you.
Good evening. It's truly an honor to stand before council and Caitlin's colleagues and friends tonight to honor her life, service, and legacy. She was an incredible, dedicated prosecutor whose commitment to justice made our community safer and stronger. As police officers, we often stand at the beginning of the criminal justice process. We investigate crimes, gather evidence, and seek the truth. Prosecutors carry that work forward. They are the voice of victims in the courtroom, entrusted with the responsibility of pursuing accountability while ensuring fairness under the law. It is a profession built on integrity, courage, and an unwavering commitment to public service. It is often a difficult, thankless job. It truly takes a special human to be a prosecutor. Throughout her career, Caitlin exemplified those values. She was a trusted partner to law enforcement, working alongside officers and investigators with professionalism, compassion, and determination. She understood that successful prosecution is not measured simply by convictions, but by serving victims, protecting constitutional rights, and strengthening public trust in the justice system. The tragic circumstances of her death make this loss even more difficult to comprehend. While her life was cut far too short, her impact will endure through the cases she handled, the victims she helped, the officers she supported, and the pursuit of justice she championed every single day. On behalf of the men and women of the Columbus Division of Police, I extend our deepest condolences to her family, friends, colleagues, and all who had the privilege to know her. May we honor her memory by continuing the work she believed in so deeply, serving our community with integrity, compassion, and a steadfast commitment to justice. Thank you.
Good evening, President Hardin, members of council. I'm going to take credit for bringing Caitlin to the City of Columbus and to the City Attorney's Office. I vividly remember when we interviewed her for an open prosecutor spot back in 2022. And three things come to mind that the impression I was left with after we interviewed her, and we knew right away, like, yes, we need to bring her on staff. She was competent. That was very clear, that she was highly competent. She was smart. She was smart and recognized that the work that we do as prosecutors, particularly in municipal court, involves having to have a lot of contact with the public and to want to have that contact with the public, to embrace that. And she made that very clear through her interview. And finally, she was unflappable. And anyone who's worked in municipal court in particular, that is a trait that will take you far in the practice of law working in that court, being unflappable. And once she came on staff and I had the privilege to supervise her and work with her and see her grow as a prosecutor and see her become close with her colleagues and work in the court and learn to get to know everybody in the court system, those traits stayed steady. They stayed steady. But I also got to see a side of her that I didn't anticipate from that interview. And that is how deeply dedicated she was to her colleagues, in particular the ones that she became very close to. When I supervised her, seeing someone that's successful in the courtroom, but also see them add to the culture of your office, you don't get that all of the time. That's not always a dual strength in somebody, and she had that dual strength. And she wanted to bring her colleagues closer together. She wanted to interact with the defense bar and have good working relationships with them. The resolution references her weekly Chipotle lunches. She loved Chipotle, and she was always leading the charge to get people to go to Chipotle. And why that's particularly important is that's an opportunity that the prosecutors would eat lunch together, and that was their time to talk about what was going on in court, to talk about the struggles they were having or particular cases that they had issues with. And so you could share and bond as a staff. You could offer help, and she was always willing to offer help. She was always willing to sit second on jury trials. And it's not unusual for us to have a chunk of our prosecutors be new to the practice of law. They're starting out their legal career in our office, and she was always willing to mentor them, to answer their questions, to be there for them when they were going to have to litigate something and they were scared about it. I could rely on her to step up without even having to ask her to do so. She had a particular passion for OVI cases in the prosecution. She became very close with the Division of Police in that and working with their OVI enforcement unit and helping with the trainings with that. So I made her the liaison. Again, I never had to ask her. She always stood up on her own and volunteered to do those things. So she was a joy to supervise. She was a joy to work with as a colleague. She will be missed immensely in our office. She will never be forgotten, and the impact that she made, wow, what a decision that we made back in 2022 to bring her onto our staff. Thank you.
Thank you, to each of you. Thank you, City Attorney Klein, for being here. If everyone who has come to honor Caitlin could just stand for a second, just to see the magnitude of Caitlin's impact to our community, and not just the City Attorney's Office and the Defense Bar and the courts, but to the City of Columbus. And if we could just for a moment give a round of applause in honor of Caitlin and her life and her service to our city. And to Caitlin's family, thank you for allowing us to honor her in this way. Thank you for being here today. And before we call in the bagpipes for a final moment of remembrance for Caitlin from City Hall, I would ask if my colleagues have any other comments. All right, with that, I will move for adoption of this resolution.
Second.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross Weiss, President Harden.
Adopted. Thank you. Actually, in this transition, can we have a motion to recess for 2 minutes for the chamber to clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross Weiss, President Harden.
Council is in recess for 2 minutes. I'm going to 2-minute pee. Yes, it is that. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We will go back to our regular resolution moment, starting with Councilmember Bangston.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to take a point of privilege and just acknowledge the young man who did our prayer this evening to open up council. Very proud of Joshua Gaucher, who's a proud intern in my office. And so just wanted to say congratulations to him and thankful. He is a very bright young man who has a very bright future ahead of him in this city and in this community. So thankful to have him in my office. And as you all can see now, I got someone praying over me, so I appreciate it. Thank you, Joshua. That's all I have.
Councilmember Barosa de Padilla.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you, Councilmember Ross, for inviting us to be part of a celebration of Caitlin's life. That was a beautiful moment for us to all share together as a community. June is a busy month. It is, aside from being Pride, it is also Immigrant Heritage Month and Caribbean Heritage Month. And I feel extremely proud to be part of both of those groups. But Immigrant Heritage Month was established in 2014 to encourage Americans to reflect on and share the stories of immigrants and their descendants. It shares as a reminder that the United States has long been strengthened by people from every corner of the world who have brought new ideas, cultures, skills, and traditions. The generations of immigrants whose courage, sacrifices, and contributions have helped shape the United States, from the earliest newcomers seeking freedom and opportunity to today's immigrants building lives, businesses, and communities. Their stories are woven into the fabric of our nation. Their contributions can be found in every aspect of our society, from education, science, and medicine to public service, entrepreneurship, the arts, and community leadership. Recognizing this month is especially important today, at a time when conversation about immigration often focuses on policies and politics. Immigrant Heritage Month invites us to focus on people, their journeys, their aspirations. It reminds us that behind every immigrant story is a family seeking opportunity, safety, belonging, and a chance to build a better future. By learning one another's histories and experiences, we can strengthen understanding, foster inclusion, and build bridges across generations and backgrounds. So happy Immigrant Heritage Month to all. We should all be celebrating. And one way that you can celebrate is, this is a great time to visit that local restaurant, that local shop that you've been curious about, that you've heard things about, to encourage your colleagues to go out to lunch. There's amazing food trucks. There's amazing businesses in Linden, on the east side, on the south side, on the north side, on Morse Road. And this is a perfect time for you to be in community and to foster understanding with folks in our community. So happy Immigrant Heritage Month. I hope invite you all to join me in celebrating. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember de Akauer.
Thank you, Council President. I just have one announcement. On Thursday from 4:30 to 7:30, we have our next Rise Up C-Bus event. This will be on the far west side at Galloway Ridge Intermediate School. It's a great opportunity to gather with community members and also have a chance to check out the variety of resources we have available here in the city of Columbus. Those events are always a lot of fun. You can just stop by anytime between 4:30 and 7:30. And I'm imagining we're having free food as usual. Free food. You can't go wrong with free food. So join us, Rise Up C-Bus, Thursday at Galloway Ridge Intermediate School.
Thank you, Councilmember. President Pro Tem.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to announce next Monday on June 15th here in City Hall at 5:30, we'll be having the first hearing of the joint Columbus City Schools Committee. This committee is being led by both myself and Council President, along with the President of the Columbus City School Board and Vice President. We'll be hearing a presentation outlining all the different ways the city and the school board interact financially and programmatically. Additionally, we'll have presenters from the Community and Learning Institute from our neighbors down in Cincinnati to present on their community learning model. If you are someone with ideas on how council and the school district can better partner together for our students, families, and teachers here in Columbus, please, I invite you to join us for that hearing. You can certainly join us here in person in City Hall or certainly online, as the hearing will be live streamed on YouTube and Facebook. We will be accepting speaker slips from now until 3 o'clock, the day of the hearing. So if you're interested in signing up to testify, please email my aide, Andy McDonald, at abmcdonald@columbus.gov to sign up. That's all I have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. Councilmember Green. Councilmember Remy.
Thank you very much, Council President. I'd like to announce that I will be hosting a hearing to review the status of the Division of Fire's apparatus. For those who aren't familiar with public safety lingo, apparatus refers to emergency vehicles, fire engines, ladder trucks, tankers, and other heavy equipment. The hearing will also cover capital budget requests related to fire apparatus and facilities management. Ensuring that our firefighters have the equipment and resources they need is essential to protecting public safety across Columbus. This hearing will give council, residents, and stakeholders an opportunity to better understand the current status of our fire apparatus, the challenges facing the fleet, and the long-term planning needed to keep our Division of Fire ready to serve. We all know we have a backlog of needs. We didn't get here overnight, and we're not going to fix it overnight. But council wants to make sure we understand the roadmap for how we will address outstanding issues. This hearing will take place on Thursday, June 25th at 2:30 in council chambers. It will also be live streamed on Facebook and YouTube. To submit written testimony or sign up to speak, please email my aide, Pedro Mejia, at pdmejia, MEJIA, @columbus.gov by 12 p.m. on Wednesday, June 24th with the subject line Fire Hearing. Thank you very much, Council President. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Ross.
Thank you, Council President Harden. Just two announcements. On June 14th from 12 to 8 p.m. in the Discovery District, the Columbus Fashion Alliance will celebrate 614 Day and is inviting all from the city of Columbus for a full day of music, vendors, and local attractions to join us in celebrating our city and all of the great folks who make up our city. So June 14th, 12 to 8 p.m. in the Discovery District, centered around Columbus Fashion Alliance at 161 North Grant Avenue. On Monday, June 15th at 7:30 p.m., I kindly ask you to join me and my community partners to celebrate Juneteenth with an illumination ceremony starting roughly around 7:30 p.m. Join us to recognize the past and celebrate the present and inspire the future. This evening will be filled with music and performances in remembrance of our history. To register for the event, you're welcome to visit my social media pages. I believe they're all Tierra and Ross. Check me if I'm wrong. Sorry if I'm wrong, but you should be able to find me. There is a link to sign up, but you certainly don't have to sign up to be in attendance. So we look forward to seeing you on June 15th, Monday at 7:30 p.m. That's all from me, Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember White.
Thank you, Council President. Two quick announcements. First, just a note of thanks to everyone who joined us and watched online last week's Public Utilities and Sustainability Committee hearing. The discussion primarily focused on Columbus Water and Power's income qualified and senior discount program, as well as high capacity users. I want to thank the department for putting the presentation together and look forward to receiving the full report at the end of the month. I also want to take a moment to wish my colleague, Councilmember Remy, a happy birthday. It is his birthday today, so if we can all give him a big round of applause, that would be great.
Thank you, and happy birthday, Remy. Well, first tonight, I would like to invite Mr. Alls, Mr. Jordan to come forward as we present Resolution 0144X-2026, and whoever else is here to celebrate the Coming Home African American Holiday Festival. We honor and recognize the Coming Home African American and Holiday Festival as the Coming Home Festival was founded in 1988 at Mount Vernon Plaza Marble Gang Restaurant by Mr. Lawrence Alls, Waldo Tyler, and Ruth McRae. It quickly became one of the largest and most influential community celebrations here in our city. The event attracted hundreds of thousands of residents and visitors while serving as a major cultural and economic gathering prior to the establishment of Red, White, and Boom. The Coming Home Festival is a community influence and community finance celebration of African American heritage, of life, of love, of respect, and togetherness, while generating significant economic impact and establishing the city as a premier heritage tourism destination. It became a platform for preserving and showcasing Black culture, for showcasing arts and traditions, drawing both local and international attention to Columbus's vibrant African American community. The festival continues today through ongoing efforts to preserve its historical significance by documenting its founders, contributors, volunteers, stories, photographs, memorabilia, and cultural impact through education, outreach, and historic initiatives. With that, I'm pleased to present this resolution recognizing Coming Home African American Holiday Festival as not only a festival, but a cultural milestone, an economic driver, and a symbol of unity that celebrated African American identity and strengthened our roots in our city. I am so grateful for our leaders that we have here, for all of us Columbus kids, the stories of coming home. Are stories that we were all raised with. It was a reminder of how we would come together as a community, literally talking about the thousands and thousands of people who would be on Mount Vernon. And for you all to revive that, bring that back, the spirit, the culture of that in our community at this time where we need to be reminded of who we are and our values and putting our culture forward. We're just grateful. And so that's why I thought it was really important to have this recognition as we prepare for this year's resignation. So before I open up to my colleagues, I want to turn it over to Mr. Alls or Mr. Jordan. I don't know who's speaking on this or anyone to speak on.
Yeah, I got picked.
There we go.
Kind of way. No, I think I wanted to say my condolences in hearing what had just taken place around the lady Caitlin. That was an important ceremony and recognition of community service and her colleagues' attitude about it. And it reminded me of really what Coming Home was about, because we're here as a preservation committee, but we really need to honor the people who are not here, who are deceased, who made it happen, made it work. And the memories that kind of last forever if you're old enough to remember and to tell your grandchildren. So I'm thanking City Council and for what you've done, Council President. Coming Home was unique, and it will rise again in some form. There is a what's next.
Yeah.
And that discussion is going on with stakeholders and people much younger than myself, as you can see. And Selena Dawkins kind of kicked the ball off last year at the Old Town East Jazz Festival when I get the phone call that said, hey, what about this thing called Coming Home? And so thanks to her, but really thanks to the people who made it happen. The volunteers, the supporters, and the people who participated in the world's largest African-American line dance. I have one story to tell and then I'll stop. My mother participated in that line dance. So did my granddaughter. And when I got in line, they pushed me out. Now, I was the boss of that, I thought, of that whole thing. And they said, well, Grandpa, you don't know how to dance. I said, wow. So, but I got out of the line dance and just did my work, okay. But it was a very proud moment to see that many people operate in sync. Mm-hmm. It was one of the most incredible things I'd ever experienced. But that was the case of Coming Home. Coming Home was an experience. And that's why it will live forever. As Beverly Warfield said, not in fact, but in people's hearts and their minds because of the accumulation of goodwill and good feelings. And that's why it's a tremendous brand that is my responsibility to turn over to younger people and let them shape what it looks like in the future. So I want to say thank you. There is a what's next. It will reflect the fact that it was basically financed by the black business people in and around Columbus. It never got a lot of funding or grants. And it struggled every year to happen, but it did. So again, thank you. And I want to thank all the people standing here. And I can't give them all a chance to talk because I've used their time. But at the end of the day, it is significant when you say, you know, the dispatch said 22,000 people participated. The Columbus Police said 45,000. And the Guinness Book of World Records said 30,000, right? We could have filled up this hall if we had gotten on radio and television and said, come get your reward for participating in the line dance, and we would have had an uncomfortable situation. So the point is, thank you. That's it.
I'm going to open up to my colleagues. Again, and there are a lot of memories of coming home or the conversation around it.
As the most seasoned member of the Columbus Kids Caucus, I actually remember being at the coming home, and it was the place. It was the place to be every weekend. And I think, you know, one of my best friends, her grandmother was like my adopted grandmother, and it was funny. She used to talk about how her and her best friend made the Macon, and used to tell us lots of stories of Mount Vernon. And it was funny because I think as young people, we went for the vibes. We went because it was a place to be in, a place to have fun. And it was really our elders teaching us of the significance of Mount Vernon. It was our elders teaching us of the significance of what the coming home meant. And I was just speaking about this at one of our libraries. When I was a kid, and this I think speaks to the specialness of Columbus. When I was a kid, I used to go to the Martin Luther King Library because I went to Fair Avenue, and Walt Neal and Amina Robinson taught us art classes. As a little kid, like I got to experience that, you know, and so I think the way that we have opened up our history and the way that we continue to tell our history is so incredibly important because we've had amazing artists and inventors and scientists who are Black, who are Latino, who are Asian, who are all kinds of people who have come from Columbus. So continuing to celebrate that greatness, continuing to tell our young people who they came from and the greatness that they've come from, because you know, working in youth work, we always talk about our kids need to see us to be us, and they need to understand our history, especially at a time when people are trying to wipe it away from us and take it away from us. And so, you know, I talked about being proximate to community before, and it has been such a joy for me to be proximate to this community, to be able to celebrate it. And it's certainly something that I want for our young people to continue, for our young people to feel like you are coming to a family gathering, for us to get that feel back as a city, that we are close to each other and that we are neighbors and that we see each other. And that's what the coming home in reflection always meant for me. So thank you for this continued effort, and I'm excited to come home sometime soon.
Yeah, you're here. Okay, Councilman Bankston, I'm putting you on the spot. Say something for us.
I'm happy to, Mr. Ells. I just didn't want to belabor the moment because I think you said it all, and so did my colleague. But I have a fond memory. I don't know if you all remember, there was an effort that was, I think it was called Keep Coming Home or something. There was an effort in the early 2000s. Well, I appreciate you because that was the longest parade I ever marched in at East High School. And so, yeah, so I got to hear the stories, but then also even that glimmer of hope, trying to bring it back, to be a part of that in East High School Marching Band, all the way down Mount Vernon Avenue, y'all, up to Long Street, all the way down Long Street, and all the way back to the Urban League is where we were. But it was a great time. But I do think that when we talk about the legacy of these things, it's so critically important, particularly, I think, after what transpired this past weekend in our community. I think that coming home reminds us that safe spaces to gather where intergenerational efforts are needed. When we think about the coming home, it was our seasoned brothers and sisters, our families, young folks, all around each other. That village mentality that we have to get back to. And so now more than ever, We need efforts like the Coming Home, particularly in the Black community, to continue to give us Black joy and Black hope. That's really what it comes down to. It was the best of us to show that even in the midst of hard times, even in the midst of barriers that may have been placed in our way as a people, that we still owned a part of this city, that we still had a place to experience and show joy. And so I'm looking forward to the effort to bring it back now. Mr. Alls is leading the charge, so I know it's going to cost me a lot of money, so we'll figure it out. But I think it's well worth the efforts to make sure that we reclaim that history, continue to tell the story, particularly when I think about efforts like Poindexter Village and making sure that our history is told. This is one of those things that lives, I think should live in that museum, but should be going on in these times that we're in. So thank you all for, one, the pioneers who made it happen, but also those that are making the effort to bring it back because it's so needed. Was that okay, Mr. Alls?
You earned it. Okay. Thank you very much.
With that, I move for adoption. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any comments by our elected officials?
Thanks again, guys.
Of course, of course. Are there any requests by members of council for the removal of an ordinance resolution from the consent portion of the agenda? Hearing none, may we now have a motion to waive reading of title of the third day legislation by the clerk? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you. Will the clerk now read into the record the ordinance numbers of third day legislation on tonight's agenda for first reading?
In Finance and Governance Committee, we have ordinances 1522 and 1541-2026. Economic Development and Small and Minority Business, we have ordinances 1590, 1649, and 1650-2026. Public Service and Transportation Committee, ordinances 1495, 1609, 1619, and 1672-2026. Neighborhoods, Recreation, and Parks Committee, ordinances 1404, 1405, and 1409-2026. Health, Human Services, and Equity Committee, ordinances 1615 and 1627-2026. Housing, Homelessness, and Building Committee, ordinances 1553 and 1684-2026. Public Utilities and Sustainability Committee, ordinances 1425, 1459, 1475, 1533, 1559, 1573, and 1575-2026.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We don't have any speakers on the first reading portion of the agenda. The following ordinance appear on our agenda as consent. Will the clerk read those into the record?
Resolutions of expression 145X, 142X, 138X, and 141X-2026. Finance and Governance Committee, we have ordinances 1357, 1429, 1457, 1472, 1473, 1542, 1561, 1564, and 1566-2026. Economic Development and Small and Minority Business Committee, ordinances 1484, 1485, 1558, and 1608-2026. Public Service and Transportation Committee, ordinances 1335, 1493, 1496, 1548, and 1560-2026. Neighborhoods, Recreation, and Parks Committee, ordinances 1410 and 1489-2026. Workforce, Education, and Labor Committee, ordinances 1550 and 1695-2026. Health, Human Services, and Equity Committee, ordinances 1587 and 1714-2026. Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee, ordinances 1302, 1448, and 1644-2026. Housing, Homelessness, and Building Committee, ordinance 1597-2026. Public Utilities and Sustainability Committee, ordinance 1160, 1325, 1390, 1491, 1500, 1515, 1519, 1524, 1540, 1544, 1555, 1557, and 1601-2026. Rules and Policy Committee appointments A111 and A112-2026.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And there are no speakers on the consent portion of the agenda. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, may I have a motion to approve these items designated as consent? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Consent agenda is passed. We'll now proceed with the second reading of 30-day postponed and emergency legislation. First committee to come before council is the Finance and Governance Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Bangston. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you. First up tonight in the Finance and Governance Committee, we have Ordinance 1468-2026 to authorize the Finance and Management Director to enter into a one-year contract with Una Solutions, Inc. for unlimited licenses to use the software solution and professional services related to the Una procurement strategic sourcing platform to waive the competitive bidding requirements of Columbus City Codes, to authorize the expenditure of $182,318.21, and to declare an emergency. This legislation authorizes a contract with Una Solutions, formerly Bonfire, for those here at the city, for ongoing software systems and support for the city's online procurement system. This subscription-based software allows city employees to solicit, receive, and evaluate RFPs and BVPs in an online procurement system. The system is administered by the purchasing office and is made available to city staff, allowing them to become a user and publish and review RFPs and BVPs for purchases using this process. The city has used this software since 2018. And so I believe the competitive bid here is one for the ongoing use of this system, and also because, again, it was purchased, the company was purchased by Una Solutions, so wanted to make sure that we clarify that from going from Bonfire to now Una Solutions. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Pass.
Next, we have Ordinance 1572-2026 to authorize the expenditure of $139,150 from the Community Development Block Grant Fund to authorize the Director of the Department of Finance and Management to modify the CDBG subrecipient agreement with Habitat for Humanity of Ohio, Inc. to add $139,150 and to allow for reimbursement of expenditures occurred between January 1 and February 27, 2026, and to declare an emergency. Our Department of Finance and Management requested that we postpone this ordinance to the June 22nd council meeting due to anticipated changes to a companion piece of legislation. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? If not, I would move to postpone this legislation until the June 22nd council meeting.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Next, we have Ordinance 1715-2026 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management on behalf of the Office of Construction Management to enter into a construction contract with General Maintenance and Engineering Co. for the roof restoration and replacement project to authorize a transfer of $1,399,500 and expenditure up to $2,901,500 within the Construction Management Capital Improvement Fund to authorize an amendment to the 2025 capital improvements budget and to declare an emergency. This legislation authorizes a construction contract with General Maintenance and Engineering Co. for roof restoration and replacement services at 3 city facilities: Fire Station 18, located at 1630 Cleveland Avenue; Fire Station 19, located at 3601 North High Street; and the Reeb Center, located at 280 Reeb Avenue. The Office of Construction Management conducts a phased roof replacement program whereby city facilities are assessed annually and roof repairs and replacements are scheduled for procurement and contracting. This project was competitively bid by the Office of Construction Management. The city received only one responsive bid, and such bid is recommended for award to General Maintenance and Engineering Co. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you, Council President. I move to the Economic Development and Small Minority Business Committee. Thank you. First off, in the Economic Development and Small Minority Business Committee, we have Ordinance 1361-2026 to authorize the Director of Department of Development to enter into a contract with Priscilla Tyson Consulting, LLC, to assist in the completion and opening of the Poindexter Village Museum and Cultural Center, to authorize the appropriation and expenditure in an amount up to $130,000 within the Neighborhood Economic Development Fund, to allow for reimbursement of expenditures prior to the issuance of the purchase order, and to waive the competitive bidding provisions of Columbus City Codes, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance establishes a new contract between the city and Priscilla Tyson Consulting, LLC, to assist in the completion and opening of the Poindexter Village Museum and Cultural Center. As I was saying in my remarks about the Poindexter Village Museum and Cultural Center, which will become the African American Museum for the city of Columbus. Really excited about that. The city is both engaged and committed from a capital standpoint, but also, as you can see here, from a standpoint of making sure that we get this done and deliver this for the community. So excited to be working with this consulting firm to continue their work. That is the reason for the wave of competitive bidding, because this is ongoing work that this consultant has been doing to help bring back best practices, but also help in aiding with the ongoing fundraising efforts and operational support for the museum once it opens. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Next, we have Ordinance 1508-2026 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into the first amended and restated Norwich Township compensation agreement with Norwich Township regarding administrative changes to the agreement due to the repeal of the Sugar Farms 40B TIF and the expansion of the Sugar Farms Incentive District by Ordinance number 2451-2025 to appropriate and authorize the expenditure of the service payments in lieu of taxes generated by the parcels in the Sugar Farms Incentive District and Reener South Incentive District that are to be deposited into the Sugar Farms Incentive District 40C TIF Fund and the Reener South Incentive District's 40C TIF Fund in accordance with the first amended and restated Norwich Township compensation agreement. This is an administrative change, but I think there is more conversation to be had. So at this time, I will move to postpone this ordinance to the June 22nd council meeting.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you.
Postponed, I apologize.
Thank you. Next, we have Ordinance 1511-2026 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to execute an amendment to the Economic Development Agreement dated April 19th, 2024 between the city and West Bend QOZB LLC to remove the developer's obligation related to construction and delivery of office space in association with the West Bend project, provided that the developer assumes the new obligations to deliver the apartments by a certain deadline to more quickly address the city's housing supply shortage. Again, a piece of ordinance here that would remove certain parts of this EDA, but maintain all of the other ones, just given the climate that we find ourselves in with office, but wanting to make sure that we allow more discussion on this. I will be moving to postpone this to the June 2nd council meeting.
June 22nd, right?
June 22nd.
To June 22nd. Sorry, I moved to postpone to the June 22nd council meeting.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Postpone.
Thank you. And last up, we have Ordinance 1530-2026 to repeal Ordinance 2640-2025 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into a professional services contract with Paul Worth Associates, Inc. to aid in strategic communications work to authorize the appropriation and expenditure in an amount up to $65,690.87 within the Neighborhood Economic Development Fund to waive the competitive bidding requirements under Columbus City Codes, to authorize the reimbursement of expenditures prior to the issuance of the purchase order, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance authorizes a $65,690.87 contract to continue strategic communications work, communications outreach, constituent messaging, constituency outreach, media relations, media planning, and paid media services through December 31, 2026. The original intent was to modify the original contract authorized through Ordinance 2640-2025. However, the contract expired before the modification was processed. So this ordinance also repeals that previous ordinance 2640-2025 and replaces it with this contract. Again, waive of competitive bid there because this is ongoing work that has been happening with Paul Worth. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Day, Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you, Council President. That's all I have on my committees this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next committee to come before council is the Public Service and Transportation Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Rosa de Padilla. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. Tonight I have one item for second read in Public Service and Transportation Ordinance 1418-2026 to amend the 2025 capital improvement budget, to authorize a transfer of funds within the Streets and Highways Bond Fund, to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with Decker Construction Company for the ADA Ramp Project Citywide Curb Ramps 2026 project, to authorize the expenditure of up to $1,134,007.70 from the Street Construction Maintenance and Repair Fund and the Streets and Highways Bond Fund for the project, and to declare an emergency. This project includes design and construction of ADA compliant curb ramps at locations where there are no ramps or where existing ramps do not meet current ADA requirements. These ramp locations will come from 311 service requests, unmatched ramp situations at crosswalk locations not addressed as part of the resurfacing program. So, for example, brick and concrete streets, maintenance issues, and other work as needed. So, Director, two questions. Is there anything that you would like to add to this? And then secondly, how can folks see where these ADA ramps will be coming?
Good evening. It's very loud. Sorry about that.
It needs to happen at least once a meeting to wake everyone up.
All right. Good evening, President Harden, Chair Barosa de Padilla, members of council. Kind of afraid to scoot up. ADA curb ramps. Yes, we have. This contract is allowing us to construct 43 curb ramps around the city in certain areas that have, requested 311. We try to lump them in to help the contractors into certain areas and neighborhoods. The neighborhoods these ones are including are in Northwest Columbus, Italian Village, downtown, and the Near East Side in Northland are all the neighborhoods that we're hitting those 43 ADA curb ramps in. If someone wants to see if their particular street is on there, I encourage them to go to columbus.gov and do a search for ADA curb ramps.
Thank you, Director. And I just want to remind folks, as we talk about street resurfacing, that's an opportunity for us to put in ADA ramps. You'll see that usually this particular package is for us to address specifically 311 requests. But this is all a part of a strategy for us to backfill ADA curb ramps and continue to make the city more accessible. We talk about this often when sometimes you'll see an ADA ramp and you may not always see a sidewalk. That's because our hope is that at one point someone is coming, but the ADA ramp obviously makes it still more accessible for people in different mobility vehicles for them to safely come off of the curb and come onto the curb. So just a reminder to folks, this is why we do this. This is just another strategy for us to get more ADA ramps out, just like sidewalks in pieces is another way for us to continue to put sidewalks out there. So do my colleagues have any additional questions, comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Day, Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you. That's all for me this evening.
Parks Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Akauer. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. First, we have Ordinance 1436-2026 to authorize and direct the Director of Recreation and Parks Department to enter into not-for-profit service contract with The Ohio State University for implementation of the Exercise is Medicine, known as EIM program, that will benefit the public by improving health and safety. The Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center is an ardent supporter and active participant in Exercise is Medicine, a global initiative to make physical activity and exercise a standard part of disease prevention and treatment. The EIM program aims to encourage and support people in forming regular exercise routines that work for an individual's schedule and ability. Physical activity decreases the risk of many health issues, strengthens your bones and muscles, and improves self-image and mental health. OSU has been operating EIM programs throughout Central Ohio at various community centers and healthcare offices outside of Columbus. But now we're excited to begin welcoming these programs into Columbus's own community centers. EIM will allow residents to work directly with exercise physiologists at recreation park centers to create appropriate routines and keep them engaged and motivated through one-on-one and group sessions over a 12-week duration. Aside from the benefit of now having these services conveniently available for Columbus residents in their own community, this program will also serve as a form of revenue generation for the department, as the cost to participate in this program will be paid directly to recreation parks, thus improving the sustainability of the department during these difficult budget times. Please be on the lookout for more information about which centers will be hosting EIM sessions and when sessions will begin. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 1744-2026 to authorize the city clerk to enter into an advance payment grant agreement with A Step in the Right Direction in support of its hygiene program to authorize an expenditure of $25,000 within the Neighborhood Initiative Subfund and to declare an emergency. A Step in the Right Direction was one of the first organizations I had the pleasure of meeting with when I came into office. This nonprofit started out as a re-entry program on the West Side, but has since grown into so much more while still adhering to its foundational pillars of health inequities, family engagement, and workforce development. This nonprofit organizes resource fairs, runs programming for new parents, operates a warming center, and so much more to help provide a safety net to those in need in our community. The hygiene program is one of the flagship programs that Step in the Right Direction puts on. It is designed to support low-income individuals and households by providing essential hygiene and cleaning products that promote health, dignity, and well-being. Step in the Right Direction works to ensure families have access to necessary items such as soap, shampoo, toothpaste, deodorant, cleaning supplies, and other personal care products. This program is intentionally designed to be both barrier-free and trauma-informed. Families can access essential items with minimal requirements, reducing stigma and creating a welcoming environment that preserves dignity and choice. Like the organization itself, this program has grown beyond its initial service area of the 4 zip codes on the West Side, and they are now available to offer these services to all zip codes in Columbus. Unfortunately, Executive Director and Founder Kayla Davis is unable to be with us this evening, but I would like to take a moment on her behalf to share some of the outstanding impacts this program had in 2025. Step in the Right Direction was able to partner with multinational brand Suave to receive more than $200,000 in-kind donations of hygiene essentials like shampoo and body wash. This program supported more than 13,000 households throughout 2025, and each household received an average of 30 to 45 hygiene and personal care items throughout the year. This allowed families to redirect limited financial resources towards other critical needs such as housing, utilities, transportation, and food. Additionally, Step in the Right Direction has expanded collaborations to form a network of over 15 community partners across multiple zip codes, maximizing the impact of this program. Unfortunately, financial insecurity is an issue that has only gotten worse in our community since this program began, and so services like the ones A Step in the Right Direction put on will continue to be vital to residents' health and well-being. So I wanted to thank my colleagues for joining me in continuing council's support of this program. It is not easy to be a nonprofit right now, and they need whatever help we can provide while we as a community work on more long-term structural solutions to nonprofit sustainability. And just a quick plug that Kayla is also one of the proud graduates of our Getting Grant Ready Academy, which goes to show that she is out there not only doing the work for community members, but also to build long-term sustainability for organization that so many rely on. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you, Council President. That's all of my committee this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next committee to come before council is the Workforce, Education, and Labor Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Dorance. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. Tonight we have ordinance number 1301-2026 to authorize city auditor to establish an encumbrance for the payment of contract services with the Columbus Early Learning Centers and authorize the expenditure of $2,120,000 from the general fund. This legislation funds the exceptional program at the Hilltop Early Learning Center, free pre-K program open to all preschoolers in the Hilltop area. All building partners and participants have earned a step to quality rating of 5 stars through the Ohio Department of Education and the Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services. This rating recognizes and promotes learning development centers that meet quality program standards that exceed licensing, health, and safety regulations. Program standards are based on national research identifying standards that lead to improved outcomes for children. Hilltop families can enroll their children online at the hilltopearlylearningcenter.org. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? I first move to amend as submitted to the clerk. Clerk, please call the roll by voice.
Bangston. Barosa de Padilla. Day Akauer. Dorans.
Yes.
Green. Remy. Ross.
Yes.
White. Harden.
Abstain.
Ordinance is amended. I next move for passage as amended by voice.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll by voice.
Bangston. Barosa de Padilla. Day Akauer. Dorans.
Yes.
Green. Remy. Ross.
Yes.
White. President Harden.
Abstain.
Ordinance passed as amended with noted abstentions. That's all I have in my committee at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next committee to come before council is the Health, Human Service, and Equity Committee, chaired by Councilmember Green. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Council President. Tonight in our Health, Human Services, and Equity Committee, we've got one ordinance on second reading. It is Ordinance 1692-2026 to authorize the Director of the Office of Celebrate One enter into contracts to purchase pregnancy tests, diapers, wipes, pack and plays, sleep sacks, safety kits, car seats, diaper bags, and other child care items, co-sign memberships, tabling supplies, and maternal wellness items with several vendors, including but not limited to Amazon.com Services LLC, DBA Amazon, Capital Services, Inc., 4Imprint, Inc., Halo Dream, Inc., and Center of Science and Industry to waive the competitive bidding provisions and certain contracting requirements of the Columbus City Codes, Chapter 329, to authorize the expenditure of up to $280,000 from the General Government Grant Fund and to declare an emergency. This ordinance empowers Celebrate One to streamline the procurement of critical supplies for pregnant residents and families with young children. These contracts ensure that vulnerable families have access to comprehensive support systems without delay. Emergency action is requested in order to ensure immediate deployment of these vital resources for maternal health, infant care, and child safety. Director Tong, is there anything else you wanted to say about this or related to the items that are going to be purchased or the individuals that are going to be served?
Absolutely. We are grateful to Franklin County for their support in helping us meet the material assistance needs of the families that we serve. Celebrate One serves around 1,600 families annually, and so this grant that we've received really helps us go a long way in providing exactly what those families need.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston. Barosa de Padilla. Day Akauer. Dorans. Green. Remy. Ross. White. President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you so much, Council President. That's all for me.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next committee coming before council is the Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee, chaired by Councilmember Remy. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Council President. Tonight in Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee, I have one ordinance. It is 1391-2026 to authorize the Finance and Management Director to associate all general budget reservations resulting from this ordinance with the appropriate purchase agreements for the purchase of uniforms and accessories for the Division of Police from existing universal term contracts, to authorize the expenditure of $3,473,206 from the general fund, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance enables the Division of Police to purchase uniforms, footwear, leather goods, uniform accessories, and protective wear for police officers, recruits, and some civilian employees. Emergency action is requested to process uniform orders in time for annual inspections and to outfit the current recruit class. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston. Barosa de Padilla. Day Akauer. Dorans. Green. Remy. Ross. White. President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. That is all I have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next committee to come before council is the Public Utilities and Sustainability Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Weiss. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. First, in Public Utilities and Sustainability Committee this evening, I have Ordinance 1386-2026 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a construction contract with Complete General Construction Company for the Walhalla Ravine Stream Restoration Project, to authorize an amendment to the 2025 capital improvement budget to appropriate funds within the Sanitary Revolving Loan Fund, to make this ordinance contingent upon the Ohio Water Development Authority approving a loan for this project, and to authorize the expenditure of up to $2,365,772.96 from the Sanitary Revolving Loan Fund and the Sanitary Bond Fund to pay for the project. This project includes restoration work to the channel bed and banks of the Walhalla Stream with the goal of stabilizing the ravine and reducing erosion and suspended sediment load. Stop there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston,
Pat,
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
pass.
Eagerness on the seconds. I love that. Next, I have Ordinance 1387-2026 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to modify an existing contract with K&M Cleaning Services Incorporated to extend the contract term and add additional funding for janitorial services at various Department of Public Utilities, Division of Water Reclamation, and Division of Water Facilities, and to authorize the expenditure of $835,320.02 from the Water Operating Fund and $920,740.33 from the Sanitary Sewer Operating Fund. Deputy Director, just one quick question. Does this extension incorporate the city's recycling requirements into the contract?
Thank you for the question, Councilmember. So I know that this is an extension of an already existing contract at one of our locations for cleaning services, but I don't have information on me about whether or not it incorporates any changes to the recycling program. It is something that I'm trying to get you an answer on, but don't have available tonight.
No worries. Unfortunately, I will move to send this back to committee, and we can talk about it again in a couple of weeks. So I move to move this back to committee.
Sorry.
Refer. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Refer back to committee.
Not applause on recycling. I love it. Next, I have 1393-2026 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to modify and increase a professional construction management services contract with Smoot Construction Company of Ohio for the Big Walnut Trunk Extension Phase 2 Professional Construction Management Project, to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to apply for and accept a loan from the Sanitary Fresh Water Market for the project, to appropriate funds in the Sanitary Fresh Water Market Rate Fund to make this ordinance contingent upon the Ohio Water Development Authority approving a loan for this project, and to authorize an expenditure of up to $1,913,332.96 from the Sanitary Fresh Water Market Rate Fund to pay for the contract modification. This project will provide sanitary sewer service for the rapidly developing area between Hoover Reservoir and New Albany, eliminating home septic tank systems in the area and improving watershed runoff. It will also expand the tax base and number of ratepayers for the city providing utilities. Let me stop there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, I have Ordinance 1470-2026 to authorize the city attorney to spend city funds to acquire and accept in good faith certain fee simple and lesser real estate, and to contract for associated professional services in order for the Department of Public Utilities to timely complete the acquisition of real estate for the Fourth Water Plant Transmission Main Phase 1 project, to authorize an amendment to the 2025 capital improvement budget to appropriate funds within the Fresh Water Market Rate Fund to make this ordinance contingent upon approval of a loan from the Ohio Water Development Authority, and to authorize the expenditure of up to $5 million from the Water Fresh Market Rate Fund. This contract enables the city to acquire 84 easements which are necessary to connect the new Home Road water plant to Columbus Water and Power's existing distribution system. As the Central Ohio region continues to grow, the Home Road water plant will increase reliability and resiliency across the water supply system. Let me stop there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Next, I have ordinance 1471-2026 to authorize the city attorney on behalf of the Director of Public Utilities to modify an existing contract with Taft Denettis Hollister LLP for the special legal counsel services to waive competitive bidding provisions of Columbus City Code and to authorize an expenditure of $75,000 split between the electricity, water, sanitary sewer, and stormwater operating funds. This contract provides legal services for issues relative to Columbus Water and Power's PFAS action plan development. This plan helps prevent and mitigate the effects of PFAS exposure, ensuring that our region's water supply remains consistent and reliable. Let me stop there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Next, I have ordinance 1546-2026 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management on behalf of Sustainable Columbus to make payments to the Columbus Foundation, Keep Columbus Beautiful Foundation, a nonprofit to facilitate management of funds in a donor-advised fund in furtherance of the altruistic efforts of Sustainable Columbus and Keep Columbus Beautiful, to authorize the appropriation and expenditure of $48,000 from the Sustainable Columbus Fund and to declare an emergency. I move to refer this back to committee.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Refer back to committee.
Thank you. Next, I have ordinance 1570-2026 to authorize the appropriation of $1,800,100 from the unappropriated balance of Sustainable Columbus Fund for the operating expenditures related to the Sustainable Columbus Program and to declare an emergency. I also move to refer this back to committee.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Refer back to committee.
Thank you. Last, I have ordinance 1589-2026 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to extend the existing agreement with Impact Community Action through the extension of the current purchase order through May 31st, 2027, and to authorize the use of any remaining funds unspent existing on the purchase order and to declare an emergency. This ordinance supports Impact Community Action's Solar Workforce Development Training Program, which provides specialized training and certification exams to 50 Central Ohio residents. Emergency designation is requested as the current agreement is set to expire at the end of the month, and to avoid any interruptions to the current program and its participants. Let me stop there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. That is all I have for my committee this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Seeing no further business coming for council, is there a motion to adjourn? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
We are adjourned. We're going to go ahead and take non-agenda speakers. Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Are there any additions or corrections to the journal? Hearing none, the journal is approved. We'll now go to the zoning committee. Councilmember Dorance chairs that. All members serve on it. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. As always, allow me to briefly explain our rules pertaining to speaking before council on rezonings and variances. We will only hear a staff presentation for ordinance that have a disapproval from a recommending body, or if we have a public speaker to speak against an ordinance. We permit 3 speakers on each side, 3 proponents, 3 opponents. We ask those speakers limit their remarks to 3 minutes per the standard rules of Columbus City Council. All speakers in the council variance, including city staff, area commissioners, applicants, and members of the public, will be sworn in before they give testimony. A representative of an area commission are always able to speak in an ordinance. You do not need to fill out a speaker slip, but we do ask you alert city staff of your intention to speak at this committee hearing. Representative of a civic association, however, do need to fill out a speaker slip because civic associations are not formally recognized under Columbus City Code. This evening, we have 10 public speakers signed to speak on legislation. Many of those are being honored from ordinances that were postponed in this committee meeting from May 18th, and 2 of those have rescinded their speaker slips. On the advice of the city attorney's office, I will now swear in city staff. Please stand and raise your right hand and be sworn in. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, nothing but the truth, as you shall answer under pain of penalty of perjury? If so, please say I do. I do. Thank you. Please let the record reflect that Joseph Rose from the Department of Building and Zoning Services, Christopher Lord from the Division of Planning, Dan Blishman from the Division of Traffic Management, and Deputy Director for Housing Strategy, Aaron Prosser from the Department of Development have been sworn in. First, we have ordinance number 0290-2026 to rezone 2100 Hard Road, being 5.0 plus acres located on the north side of Hard Road, 150 feet west of Stonefort Drive, from LRR Limited Rural District to AR1 Apartment Residential District. Site consists of 2 parcels, both developed with single-unit dwellings, and the requested rezoning will allow a 112-unit apartment complex at this location. A concurrent council variance for this proposal will be considered later on the agenda for this evening. The proposal is approved from city staff, but a disapproval from the Development Commission and the Far Northwest Civic Association. Due to those disapprovals, we'll now hear staff reports. First, starting with Mr. Joseph Rose from the Department of Building and Zoning Services.
Thank you, Chair Dorns, President Harden, members of council. The 5-acre site consists of 2 parcels, both developed with a single-unit dwelling in the LRR Limited Rural Residential District. The requested AR1 Apartment Residential District will allow a multi-unit residential development at this location. To the north and south of the site are single-unit dwellings in the SR Suburban Residential District. To the west are single-unit dwellings in the LR1 Limited Residential District. To the east is a multi-unit residential development in LAR12 Limited Apartment Residential District. Current council variance CB 25088 has been filed with a site plan that demonstrates a 112-unit apartment complex and includes variances for building setbacks and perimeter yard, which will be heard later on this agenda. The site is within the planning boundaries of the Northwest Plan, which recommends medium-density residential land uses. Staff also notes that the site is adjacent to multiple parcels that are zoned for Zone N Phase 2, recommending Mixed-Use 1 and Mixed-Use 2 land uses. The site is located within the boundaries of the Far Northwest Area Commission, whose recommendation is for disapproval. The requested AR1 Apartment Residential District will allow a multi-unit residential development that is compatible with the density and development standards of adjacent multi-unit residential developments. The proposal is also consistent with the Northeast Plan's recommendation for the Far Northwest Plan's recommendation for medium-density residential land uses. And additionally, the proposal also meets the city's objectives for providing more housing into the area. Therefore, city staff's recommendation is for approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Can you talk a little bit more about, as you mentioned, the plan recommends medium density within this area. Can you talk a little bit about generally what that means as it relates to a project within this area or other parts of the city?
Sure. I would have to pull up the plan real quick, but as far as the density is concerned, medium density residential, we typically see things. Low density, we typically see 4 to 6 dwelling units. Anything higher than that is usually 6 to 10 dwelling units per acre for any type of medium density residential. As far as what the plan recommends, I'll have to look that up real quick.
And you mentioned additional changes that are slated for this area with potentially with the second phase of zoning. Can you talk about potentially what those densities would look like?
I would actually probably defer to planning on that, as they're the ones who are driving that initiative.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from my colleagues for Mr. Rose at this point? Seeing none, we will move over then to planning. Mr. Christopher Lord, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Dorans, President Harden, members of council. If I can, I'll kind of speak to those questions. As noted, the medium density is a 6 to 10 unit recommendation. The mixed use one that's adjacent is recommended for 24 units per acre. So that's relatively consistent with what's proposed today. As far as this proposal, planning supports the request. As noted, the Northwest Plan recommends medium density residential at 6 to 10 units per acre at this location. Although that is inconsistent with the request, staff notes that the existing land use of this site is, according to the plan, low density residential, which is less than 4 units per acre. The land use policy for low density residential areas anticipates the likelihood of redevelopment, stating that higher densities may be appropriate in instances where other higher density residential is present. The plan and the Columbus Growth Strategy both include recommendations that higher density residential should be located on primary corridors like Hard Road. Additionally, staff notes that the site to the east is recommended, as I previously stated, for mixed use 1 in the Columbus Growth Strategy and is under consideration for updated zoning as part of the Zone In Phase 2 initiative. In terms of site design, the applicant has made revisions over time based on staff feedback that provide for additional setbacks and tree preservation along the western edge, where the proposal interfaces with lower density residential. The proposed residential buildings are also oriented to further provide appropriate setbacks and privacy. Also, the buildings along the frontage include smaller footprints, which was the change from the original submission, which staff find to be appropriate for the context. Finally, staff has reviewed the building elevations that have been provided and has found them to be consistent with the Columbus Growth Strategies design guidelines. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Lawyer. Any questions from my colleagues for planning? So I want to ask a couple questions. So you mentioned about increased density on corridors. Can you talk a little bit about, just level set a little bit about what do we mean by corridor and why would we generally as a city want more density there as compared to potentially other areas of the city?
Yeah, so as part of phase one of Zone In, we focused on really the corridors that everybody knew and understood to be the main streets of our city. As part of phase two, the first step was to identify those secondary streets, and how we did that was to look at the city's adopted multimodal thoroughfare plan, as well as where CODA link-us routes are planned, and plan that out for, in many cases, mixed use. So for this particular corridor, because it's almost a nodal approach at the Hard Road intersection to the east, that's where it's recommended mixed use in the current phase two effort. Developing along corridors is a best practice for planning. It means that you can start to have additional walkability, transit access, bikeability, et cetera, as well as businesses that are walkable to folks that might live nearby. Mixed use, however, doesn't, in our view, or adopted policy, doesn't require a mix of uses. It allows for the market to decide if commercial or residential is appropriate.
Thank you. How similar is the proposal in this application as compared to other multifamily that's sort of in the same area?
So this type of multi-unit development, a lot of the multi-unit nearby is older, so this is newer. And this would, the buildings on the frontage, as noted, are of smaller footprint than the typical three-story breezeway that we might see.
And I think one of the things that's unique here, again, we talk about those being older multifamily developments. Folks propose different things now as it relates to how we think we would plan differently, right? So when we talk about having that closer to the street, again, thinking about trying to be more thoughtful about how do you separate, sort of other, other residential areas from those. Is that, some of the changes you see when you talk about supporting sort of somewhat higher density within that area as compared to what those older developments might look like?
Yes, so additional setbacks, tree preservation where possible, that helps to enhance that, that setback or that landscape buffer. That's what they're proposing. That's kind of the best practice that we see for really any development as it comes in.
And finally, I know there's going to be questions for the applicant about this as well, but I wanted to make sure city staff had an opportunity to weigh in on this. You mentioned the applicant has made a number of changes throughout this process. Could you talk about, from a planning perspective, the ones that sort of stand out for you as far as sort of positives that, from the sort of original proposal?
Yeah. So as mentioned, the smaller footprint buildings on the front, I think, breaks up what could have been a really quite large frontage building. So I think that's more appropriate in terms of the context nearby. The additional setbacks and the tree preservation are important especially on that western edge. And then the placement of the buildings is such that the actual buildings that are further onto the site are further away again from those lower density residential to the west. And typically those types of buildings also don't have windows on their short edge. So that, again, provides additional privacy.
Last question before I move on to traffic. We talk about, we've got lots of folks who have emailed us and engaged with council about this, and one of the significant concerns around was height of the proposal. What is the height district within this area, and how does that relate to this proposal?
Yeah, the standard height district throughout the city is 35 feet, which allows for a three-story building. And that's the typical three-story walk-up that we tend to see for multi-unit residential. And my understanding is that's what's being proposed here.
Yeah, and to clarify, and Mr. Rose, back to you, there's no request for a variance on height with regard to this proposal, is that correct?
No, the height district requested is for 35 feet, which is consistent with the area around here.
Thank you. Any questions from folks before I move to Mr. Bleshman? Seeing none, Mr. Bleshman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Dorrance, President Harden, members of council. In regards to our review of this application, please be advised that in our initial review of this application, the Division of Traffic Management was not in support of the initial location of the proposed access point to Hard Road to serve the site. In response to these comments, modifications to the site plan and the proposed access point location were made to accommodate entering and exiting vehicles at the proposed access point to Hard Road. This site is anticipated to generate 52 trips, which are 13 entering trips and 39 exiting trips in the AM peak hour, and is anticipated to generate 61 trips, which are 38 entering trips and 23 exiting trips in the PM peak hour. These traffic volumes are significantly below the threshold of 200 trips in a peak hour that would require the preparation of a traffic impact study. Therefore, no traffic impact study was required in conjunction with this project. Additionally, with the existing configuration of Hard Road that currently contains a center turn lane, there would be no additional requirements for turn lane widening to accommodate this proposed site development. With these comments noted, the Department of Public Service has no further concerns regarding this application, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, my colleagues, for Mr. Bleshman with traffic? Seeing none, we will move on to Deputy Director for Housing Strategies, Ms. Erin Prosser.
Thank you, Chair Dorrance, Council President, members of Council. The proposed rezoning of 2100 Hard Road supports the Columbus housing strategy by expanding the housing options in a high-demand area where the current housing infrastructure is not meeting the demand, which is increasing housing costs and the demand for rental options and reducing the housing stability for existing families. The new units will relieve the pressure on the overall market and allow for more options for residents in the area, slowing the growth in rents and home prices and providing more options for families. Since 2020, in this census tract, the number of households has grown by little more than 11%, while the housing units have only grown by 3%. The number of vacant units in the tract dropped by more than 60%, leaving the homeowner and rental vacancy rate effectively at zero by 2024. This indicates the need for additional housing to slow the increases in housing prices. The rents in the area have risen 45% since 2020, and the home prices have escalated 29% in that same period. These housing price escalations occurred when there was still the availability of vacant housing to absorb some of that new household demand, but that is no longer the case. The median single-family home price in the zip code is currently $455,000. Therefore, a family would need a household income of $182,000 to support a purchase of a home in this part of the city. Only 15% of the households in Columbus earn more than $150,000, which means that the rental housing available in this area is the only option for the remaining 85% of families to live in this community. Even with the rental options available, 40% of the families renting in this census tract pay more than 30% of their income on their housing, which is up from just 26% in 2020, indicating a high and increasing level of housing instability among those families. This area of the city is largely built out, with more than half of the housing built between 1970 and 1989, and with less than 20% of those units built since 2010. The remaining parcels available to add housing in this high-demand area are small or scattered or have existing improvements making them difficult for redevelopment. This limits the ability to add new housing to support the demand and makes the density proposed on this site even more critical to meeting our housing needs. In this area, increasing home prices and rents, already unstable rental households, and limited land available to add the new housing needed in the development of this site with the new housing is critical to managing the rising housing costs, stabilizing existing renters, and making room for new families who want to call this part of our city home. Thank you, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Prosser. Questions from my council colleagues? Thank you. Seeing none, I will invite the applicant's representative, Mr. David Hodge, forward for a presentation.
Good evening, Chair Dorans, President Harden, members of council. David Hodge from the law firm Underhill and Hodge here this evening on behalf of the applicant in this project, Preferred Living. The staff background and the analysis just provided is really second to none in terms of overall analysis of where we are with this proposal, with the planning, the growth strategy, the existing zoning, the existing neighborhood, the housing need in the community. And so I'm certainly able to piggyback on some of that commentary and answer questions related to that. But I'll take just a couple steps back and talk about the specifics of the property here. So the folks that own this approximately 5 acres here are long-term owners. You can see from the aerial photograph that's up on the screen that the world has grown up around these folks. I may be a little mistaken on this term, but I think the same family has owned this property for just about 90 years. So they had 5 acres here when there was nothing to the west of them, north of them, south of them, and they've sat and they've owned this property for an extended period of time, and they've seen the world grow around them. The property itself is a little bit of a relic of a time gone by. There are 2 now dilapidated single-family homes on the property that have unfortunately long been bound up in the environmental court due to some code enforcement issues and speaking to the current property owner's ability to maintain those properties. We have filed a rezoning of the property to an AR1 district that will allow for 112 apartment residential units, and 34 of those units will be held at 80% of the area median income, and that is a hard commitment by the applicant, a commitment that would eventually go into an agreement between my client, the applicant, and the City of Columbus. The council variance that's later on the agenda allows for site plan and architectural commitments, which I suppose we'll see later. The buildings, as just discussed, are within the 35-foot height district, the same exact height district to the west, to the north, to the east, and to the south. There is a commitment in the site plan that shifts the development to the east, away from the single-family homes along the west, and along that western perimeter, that allows for tree preservation consistent with our neighborhood and community plans. We are also coming along that western perimeter and building low garage structures for some interior parking, and along those low garage structures we've committed to do, and this was a commitment that came later in the process to one of the questions asked earlier, Chair Dorans, that allows us to commit to do an 8-foot, very high-quality basket weave fence that comes up that 35-foot perimeter along the west, shifts to the east along the north at 25, and then comes down the 15-foot perimeter along the east side. All the time doing what can be done to preserve, you can see from the aerial photograph, to preserve the really healthy tree canopy that exists on the property. If you go just to the east of this property, as mentioned, this is the intersection of Hard and Smoky Row Road. Which is a commercial intersection. You then step to the west of that and you come into some single-story apartments that are adjacent to the property to the east, and those are in Zone N Phase 2. So in the near future, say early fall, that is going to be by right in the mixed-use district and allow a mixture or separately commercial and residential development at a density consistent with the density that we are proposing here. The other, I think, tremendous thing about this site that I don't think was much discussed with the staff is just simply where it's located. Along Hard Road, which is a very developed corridor, 2 lanes each direction, center turn lane, you have the ability to live in this community, or children have the ability to live in this community. They can walk to retail. They can walk down the street to the east and go to a community park. They can walk down the street to the east and walk to school, which is amazing. and you don't find that with every property that we have before the council. This is one that we've worked hard on, that we started early with several different iterations of with the staff, that we submitted, that we received feedback on, that we modified the architecture to, so that we had a center drive aisle, speaking to Mr. Blechschmidt's concerns, that we did those smaller buildings along the southern side of the property that frame Hard Road. The edges of the buildings, as Mr. Lohr mentioned, don't have windows, which speaks to the maintaining privacy of the single-family residential to the east. And then the northernmost building, which you may see later in the council variance portion of this, that northernmost building, which does have some openings to the west, is shifted far to the eastern side of the property. So a great proposal in a neighborhood that needs it, with existing amenity in a city that needs it. And we are grateful for the city staff's recommendation of approval. Tried our best in a couple meetings to engage with the area commission and the neighborhood and earn their support. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do that here. Worked hard with the Development Commission, and this council has heard me say in the past, you know, as our policy in the community has evolved over time, and I've certainly seen it evolve during the time that I've been doing this kind of work in the community, and certainly with the adoption of the new growth strategy, it has taken a minute for our Development Commission to catch up to that. They were doing business as if it was, in some ways, as if it was 2006 as opposed to 2026. They feel to me now to be headed in the right direction, and I think that some of that contributed to the outcome before the Development Commission. It's probably a good place to stop. I do appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight, and I will do my best to answer questions that anyone on council has.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Questions from my council colleagues for the applicant's representative? Seeing none, David, I will call you up after we have public testimony.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. We did receive 8 public speakers for this ordinance here tonight. Though as a reminder, we only allow 6 total speakers on any individual ordinance, 3 for, 3 against. If we have a speaker who is signed up, and we have these folks in the order in which they submitted their speaker slips, so it's first come, first served. If someone is not present who signed up first, we will call up the backup speaker from there. I also want to note, again, we had 2 public speakers, Mr. Nathan Briscoe and Ms. Jill Briscoe, that rescinded their speaker slips for this evening as well. So I will now call those public speakers in the order that those slips are received. The first we have is Mr. Scott Frederickson. Mr. Frederickson, welcome to council.
Good evening, President Hardin, Chair Dorans, members of council. I'm Scott. I've been a resident in the neighborhood for 9 years. I want to start by acknowledging something that I think we all agree on. Our city is growing. With that growth comes the need for additional housing, and over time that means zoning will evolve and development will occur. Our neighborhood understands and embraces that. We recognize the difficult decisions before you all. Tonight, I expect you will hear our concerns framed as NIMBYism, that we don't understand the needs of a growing city. These labels are a convenient way to dismiss the legitimate concerns of our neighborhood. Our concerns have been consistent and specific. The scale of this proposal, specifically the 3-story height, is not appropriate for the surrounding area. Let me be very clear. None of us here tonight opposing this specific proposal expect the property to remain undeveloped. I believe the residents and council ultimately want the same outcome: responsible growth that adds housing while reflecting thoughtful planning. This isn't about stopping development or progress. It's about whether the proposal represents the right balance. At the end of the day, development proposals are business decisions. But frankly, the developer is swinging for the fences and has been unwilling to entertain anything less than a 3-story development. We've been told that anything less than 3 stories doesn't meet the financial targets. However, It should not be incumbent upon the residents to absorb the impact of a project simply because the developer is unwilling or unable to pursue a more balanced approach. Preferred living is effectively insisting on a home run, but a double wins the game. A scaled approach should still allow the developer to build and generate a reasonable return. The city gains much needed housing, and residents see an outcome that feels fair, measured, and responsive to community concerns. We, of course, would prefer to see this land developed as single-family homes, but we recognize the reality of the broader housing needs of this city. We are simply asking for a development that reflects a fair and balanced approach, one that we believe is achieved with a two-story design. Thank you for your time, thank you for your consideration, and thank you for the work you do for the city.
Thank you, Mr. Frederickson. Any questions from council members for Mr. Frederickson? I just want to make sure that we're all, and I think you and I are clearly on the same page. I just want to make sure that we're all level setting. So, right now, the height district is 35 feet. So there is no request from the applicant to alter that in any way. I understand when you're talking about there's a piece of legislation here that we're being asked to act on, which would allow, up to that 35 feet. But, just to be very, very clear with the folks that are here and watching, ultimately the height district is not being altered here tonight. And and again, I think your comments are fair talking about here's what the preference would be. I just want to make sure that, again, as we're all on the same page, there are versions of the property right now that could be developed up to 3 stories absent a rezoning request.
Understood.
Sure. Thank you. Any other questions, council members? See none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker to come for council is Ms. Deborah Link, who is joining us virtually. Ms. Link, can you hear me? Ms. Link, you there?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can. Hopefully our folks here can cut down the feed.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. Mark, are we?
Hi, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. You sound a little underwater right now, so we're going to do our best to.
Hello?
Hold on one second. Let's see if our tech folks can maybe address this. I want to make sure that we can actually hear you. Yeah, Ms. Link, do you possibly have the meeting streaming in the background as well? We may be just getting some feedback from that.
Hello?
Yep.
I
Ms.
can
Link,
hear you. Can you hear me?
Much better. So the floor is yours, ma'am.
Hello?
You,
Hello?
Ms. Link, can you hear me?
Hello?
Ms.
Can you
Link,
hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Ms. Link. Can you hear me? This is.
I am talking.
Yep.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the floor is yours, ma'am.
Let me know when you want me to start.
You can start.
Thank you, Columbus City Council, for hearing us. I am Deborah Link, and I've lived in Columbus since 1983. I started out in many apartments, then purchased a townhome, and finally a 2-story home in Old Sawmill. We embraced the opportunity for families to find their homes. I felt compelled to step forward in service and advocate for our community. This is not in my backyard. I'm here to share the roadblocks we faced in this process. It was a shock to learn about this property's accelerated application for a 3-story building on 4.7 acres next to 2-story homes on multiple sides a day before the Columbus Northwest meeting. This was presented during the holidays, and we learned that this is a known strategy used to push zoning changes through without public awareness. Despite this, we managed to quickly gather over 1,100 signatures from our area opposing this 3-story buildings. Neighbors also purchased and posted 100 yard signs in opposition.
Next, we learned that a seasoned real estate attorney, David Hodge, failed to post the mandatory sign for the first hearing. That kind of oversight from experienced counsel raised questions. Preferred Living has refused to compromise with our neighborhood, even following a no vote from Columbus's Development Commission. Your own Development Commission told them this was not appropriate for our community in height and density. They told them to go back and renegotiate the price of the property. Preferred Living's presentations have been dismissive and when challenged have become combative. At the Development Commission meeting, Mr. Hodge said he doesn't put much stock in petitions, brushing aside over 1,000 resident signatures while citing a single email in support. They have offered what can be decided as superficial compromises, attempts to placate the community without engaging in real change or negotiation about the height and density on this 4.7 acres. City Council President Shannon G. Harding said it best, and I quote from his recent Just a Barbershop interview, "Columbus is changing. That change has to not just be good for the people who are coming, it has to be good for the people who are here right now." What we're asking for is to make this good for the people who are here right now in our community, with a process that reflects collaboration and a proposal that aligns with that effort. Jared Smith from Preferred Living, when asked if he would want this next to him, he said it was a lose-lose answer. He balked at the question of whether or not he would want to live next to his own plan. He has told us more than once they have a two-story plan. It's time for them to embrace that two-story plan and to design a future with our community. We are putting our trust in you to vote no and to support our community and make this good for everybody. Thank you so much for your time and consideration. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Link. Do my colleagues have any questions for Ms. Link? Thank you. Seeing none, I will invite the next speaker to come forward, Ms. Lisa Kassler. Kassler. Welcome to council.
Thank you and good evening. You should have in front of you a handout that was provided prior. Thank you. Just want to make sure you have it behind the petitions. Okay. Blue porch lights. I saw the blue lights when driving home to Schoolway Court the other night. The lights are a sign to the McGlone family that we haven't forgotten their son Kip, who was 9 years old when he was struck by a car on Hard Road back in March of 2025. The lights are still on now, a year later, because the community hasn't forgotten while the spotlight has faded. My name is Lisa, and Northwest Community is the area my husband and I chose to raise our family in 27 years ago. We selected a diverse community where people settle in and care for each other. Together with our neighbors, we check in when someone's sick, and we collectively grab snow shovels during storms like we had this past winter. Schoolway Court is a quiet tree-lined cul-de-sac, and we support each other and our broader community as well. If you approve this rezoning, 200 plus people will soon be in currently green space that's about the same size as my neighborhood, right next to my little neighborhood. The unusually high density of this proposed massive apartment complex will bring more people, more noise, and more traffic. Together, people along with sights and sounds comprise the feel of a neighborhood. And shoehorning in these ultra-dense apartments in this neighborhood just feels wrong. Over 1,100 citizens have asked through petition to say no to this increased density. The Far Northwest Coalition and the Columbus Zoning Development Commission voted no, but the developer continues to pressure for exceptions and the rezoning to get as many people as possible into the middle of an existing neighborhood with zero regard for fit and only an eye to their profit. The height of the apartments needed, which we have discussed somewhat tonight, but they will hold 200 plus people. They must bring new sightlines and into peering into previously private spaces where people could relax and enjoy in their backyards in the past. It's been a long time since I was a renter, but I remember my apartment lease, and it gave me the right to quietly enjoy my own property. This clause was important because it meant I could peacefully enjoy the space I lived. If, as a renter, my landlord broke that covenant, I had the ability to move out. As a homeowner, it's not so easy. Today, homeowners are respectfully requesting that same right. We want to sit under our own vine and fig tree. We rely on our council members to help protect our rights. Almost 3 decades ago, I left an apartment to put down roots. I chose a suburban neighborhood with character in a community, the fabric of which may be torn if you allow these high-rise density rezoning to go in. Much as the sunrise I see from my front porch will be taken away when those 100-year-old trees come down and the 3 stories go up. The blue lights, well, they'll still be lit along Hard Road, but I pray we don't need a different color bulb for another child's accident, because our roads will be more congested and accidents will be more likely. The traffic is a real issue, and it's personal too. About a year ago, my daughter, driving on the way to high school, was struck by a car. The place of this accident, right across from where these apartments are going in. An impatient driver couldn't wait to get across Hard Road. Our car was totaled. My daughter is okay now. But if these apartments go in with this ultra density, this will happen many, many times over, every day, twice a day. If you approve this rezoning, please help us keep kids and families on their way to school or on their way to the Northwest Library safe. I understand the community will grow. I ask that this growth be thoughtful and deliberate. Let us preserve the caliber of our community through right-sized, reasonable growth. I ask that you vote no tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council members? Councilmember Broso de Padilla.
First of all, thank you for being here this evening, and thank you for sharing that story. I wanted to ask a question, 2 questions actually. One around Hard Road. We had a widening project on Hard Road, actually between Smoky Row and Sawmill. So it went from 2 lanes to 5 lanes, partially to help with some of the pressure of the congestion that was already there, because I believe this was 2015.
We lived through that.
Yeah, yes. So my wonder is, have you seen traffic changes? You said you've lived there for 27 years, so obviously you were there previous, you've been there after. Just wondering, I mean, obviously this is not hard data, just as someone who lives in the community and has experienced this road, what has been your experience?
Excellent question. Thank you so much. From my personal experience, again, Schoolway Court is the closest to where this proposed area will be. What we've seen is an increased pressure on the ability, particularly to turn left. So when you're facing south, you're going east toward the school. As everyone who lives in that corridor or in that area will know, we can tell you that the speed limit while set at 35 is rarely observed. And so there's a lot of pressure to try to get across and make short commutes or short turns, if you will, in a limited amount of time. My concern on the variances, which some of my neighbors may bring up later, is limited sight can make it more challenging. I didn't bring it up, but my son was riding a bike home from school and was also struck in that area. So there's additional pressure on walkers and bicyclists as well in that area.
Got it. And then my other question, follow-up question. So folks have talked a lot about the density, or that it's 3 stories versus 2 stories or another proposal. If it was a 2-story, would that make a difference?
For the 2-story, for the people whose backyards go directly to that, yes, I believe it would. And the other piece that, from my understanding, again, I'm maybe not the math whiz that some of your planners are, but I believe that would decrease the density as well, which would further decrease the pressure and the traffic and all the rest of the concerns that my neighbors and I are bringing forward. And you can hear there are quite a few of them here tonight.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So I did want to ask that question, as I asked earlier about with one of your neighbors about the height district. I mean, the council reacts to what has been proposed to us. We are rarely in a situation where we're able to fundamentally change a project from one thing to another. So essentially, our role here is to gather as much information as we can, listen to as many people as we can, and ultimately, reasonable minds can agree or disagree about whether or not that's a good decision. And I think one of the things that, I think I've consistently heard about this project is that height issue and density issue, and those two things are certainly linked. But also, one of the things that we heard from our planning staff is about not having, sort of massive buildings. And again, I'm not the applicant here, but I'm sure there's a way that they could probably get 114 units on this amount of acres. But you would have basically a block building basically there would be very little green space most likely. And I'm just curious, when we think about where folks are more or less supportive, I'm just, I guess I'm just sort of asking this question out loud because again, I take folks at their word. I mean, about not wanting just to be a not in my backyard kind of folks, thinking through about what does development look like. And I guess I just wanted to pose that question to you. Is it, again, the height density is the most meaningful thing here? Is it the unit count? Is it both? Is it, I've heard lots about the process. And again, I just want to make sure that folks have the opportunity to respond to those things.
Yeah, no, again, thank you very much for your question. From my personal perspective, and again, we had several other speakers tonight, there are many areas that are important. The massing is a big part of it, and I think that's for many of us the lead issue. Yes, we do value the trees. Yes, we do value the sense of community and working together to achieve a process, and feel that we haven't been heard up to this point by the developer, perhaps, and some of the opportunities that we had to meet with them didn't manifest in the way that we had certainly hoped. We had not been heard by them, and some of the adjustments that had been made, I think, were offered initially and felt dismissive and not responsive. So if anything can be done to ameliorate the situation, I think it would be deemed desirable, much in the same way that the conversation was at the end of the City Council talking about the Wesley Gun project. There are opportunities in different spaces and different times. This is a unique property. It's 4.7 acres. Anything that can be done to help embrace the community and help toward improving the housing need that we have, while at the same time balancing and fitting with the existing neighborhood, I think is a win for all of us. And I appreciate your time and thought and questions.
Thank you. Any other questions, council colleagues? Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have two speakers time to speak in favor of this ordinance. First is Mr. Jonathan Bashirs. Mr. Bashirs, welcome back to council.
Thank you. My name is Jonathan Bashirs, and I've lived in Columbus most of my life. I'm here to speak in favor of building housing at 2100 Hard Road because people need housing. No one is paying me to be here. I'm here because I am a Christian, and I'm deeply concerned about the housing shortage in Columbus and how it's affecting our neighbors. I believe that the people in this area are good people and they have legitimate concerns. They're concerned about the traffic situation, the size of these buildings, the fact that they're going very close to the property line. They're concerned about the character of their neighborhood. I think that these are all valid concerns, and I'm not dismissing them in any way. But because you're good people, I believe that you would want to know if you were doing something that wasn't consistent with your own principles. Principles like fairness, treating people equally, and giving everyone a chance at the American dream. You see, there's a massive housing shortage in Central Ohio. There is a massive housing shortage in Central Ohio. The Ohio Coalition on Housing and Homelessness estimates that we already have a shortage of 50,000 units, and we need another 150 to 200,000 more to keep up with people moving here for work. This is causing rent to go up rapidly across the area. As you think about this proposal, I ask you not to think only of the building, but I ask you to think of the people who will live in the building. Imagine who these people are. They go to work every day. They may cook our food, fix our plumbing when it breaks, teach our children, provide us with medical services when we're sick. Many have children who need a safe place to live with good schools. Maybe they could be friends with your children. These people who need housing, they are made in the image of God, just like the people in this room. They have the same dignity that we have. Many of the same hopes and dreams. They just need somewhere to live where the rent isn't so high that they can't make ends meet. Will you open your heart not to a building, but to the people in our town who need somewhere to live? Will we love our neighbors who haven't arrived yet? and tell them that there is a place in Columbus for good people who go to work every day, are doing everything right, and they just need somewhere to live. Members of council, will you open your hearts? Will you approve this zoning change so that we can get that much closer to making sure that everyone has a place to live? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bashirs. Any questions, my council colleagues? Seeing none, thank you. And our final speaker on this piece of legislation is Ms. Julia Bashirs. Ms. Bashirs, welcome back to council.
President Hardin, Pro Tem Dorans, and members of City Council. My name is Julia Bashirs, and I have lived in Columbus my whole life. I am going into 9th grade, and I am asking you to allow more housing to be built at 2100 Hard Road, because me and my friends need somewhere to live. It seems that every time someone wants to build housing in Columbus, there is an uproar. People in the area loudly oppose the project because it's too tall or whatever they want to say. They seem to have no regard for the massive housing shortage in this city and what it's doing to rent prices. I wonder how many of the people opposing this measure lived in an apartment at one time, and I wonder how much that apartment cost. Do they not know that the cost of apartments has skyrocketed in Columbus in recent years? Do they not care about what effects this will have on their grandchildren, children, nieces, and nephews? And I wonder how many of these people would say that they want housing to be affordable in Columbus. In the Bible, in the book of James, it says, "Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, 'Go in peace, keep warm and well fed,' but does nothing about their physical needs, what good does it do?" What good is it to say that you want people to be able to afford their housing, and then you oppose all attempts to build that housing? Your actions speak louder than your words. How many people are saying that they're Christians or spiritual people, but fight tooth and nail against people who just need somewhere to live? Where do you expect us to go if we don't build housing? Can we come live in your church? Maybe there's a gym or a basement we can stay in. Will the neighborhood association approve a zoning plan for tents? The tents that me and my friends will have to live in if we don't build more housing? Can we pitch some tents in the parks or on the playgrounds at the schools, or perhaps even in your own yard? Or maybe we do the right thing. Maybe we stop slamming the door shut in people's faces. Maybe we invest in the future by ensuring our young people do not end up homeless. Members of City Council, do what's right and make sure young people have somewhere to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bashirs. Any questions from my council colleagues? Councilmember Green.
Ms. Bashirs, you and your dad said you would be back, and you came back again, and I am very grateful for that. And just want to keep encouraging you to use your voice, and I have no doubt that someday you are going to be sitting up here. So thank you for being here.
Councilor Diakar.
Thank you so much for coming down again. When my daughter graduated from high school, we were living in the San Francisco Bay Area. It was an area that didn't have enough housing, and people didn't want apartments. They opposed it. My daughter and I were homeless. We got priced out of our apartment, and we couldn't find anything. I was making $75,000 a year at that time, and I could not afford a place. I have been homeless because people opposed housing. That happens to good people. Thank you so much for your witness.
Thank you, Ms. Bashirs. I appreciate having a youthful voice in this sometimes very fraught and complicated discussion. So thank you for being here.
I'll just say, not even on the issue, but it is very, very hard to speak on an issue that you know everyone else around you probably disagrees with you on, regardless if you are a ninth grader or you are a seasoned politician. So just keep that courage. Just keep that courage. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Want to invite the applicant's representative, Mr. Hodgeback, for any additional comment based upon the public testimony.
Thank you, Chair Dorans. Just a few things related to commentary about the scale and the height. And we've now heard a number of times, it's stated in the room, that the height of these buildings is 35 feet. We're not asking for 35 feet. 35 feet exists on this property today. It's the same exact height district that exists to the north, south, east, and west. In the near future, when Zone In Phase 2 occurs on the property adjacent to the east, the maximum height is going to be much taller than 35 feet. But for the time being, it's 35 feet. We're not asking for anything more than that. In terms of a discussion that this is solely about Preferred Living's financial targets, it's just not true. It's just not true. We're here before the council tonight with a city staff recommendation of approval. I believe, based upon my experience, that the city staff arrives at their recommendation based upon acting in furtherance of city policy. So we're here with a proposal that is in furtherance of city policy as it relates to housing, as it relates to the aesthetics, as it relates to the appropriateness of the proposal, and as it relates to the density, and certainly as it relates to the height. I'm all for criticism when it's fair against me personally or my clients and the way we conduct our processes and ourselves. But some of the commentary to me felt just a smidge personal. And I think that the way I run this process is on the up and up. I think I do what needs to be done. There certainly was the unfortunate circumstance here that the sign didn't get posted. We put the brakes on the process and went out and made sure the signs were posted. Matter of fact, the signs blew down through the winter months, and we went out and reposted the signs when we got notification that the signs were down. So there was nothing that happened that was untoward, that was related to the holidays or anything else. And so I just wanted to make that abundantly clear to the council. I also want to speak to some of the narrative, and some of the narrative that was used was massive apartment complex, ultra dense, high rise. This is 112 units in a 35-foot height district with a commitment to preservation, with a commitment to high quality architecture, with privacy in mind, with shifting buildings to the east, with essentially by the low garage structures with the 8-foot basket weave fence. It's going to be Preferred Living's, if this goes forward, it would be Preferred Living's real estate, but it's going to feel like a 35-foot addition to the single-family residential neighbors to the west, to their backyard, and along the north, 25 feet. So I respectfully request the council's approval of the legislation on this rezoning to the AR1 district. It's an appropriate rezoning request. And it is consistent with existing city policy, housing strategy, Columbus growth strategy, and is here with the city staff's recommendation of approval. No issues from staff, and I'll stop there and answer any questions.
Any questions for the applicant's representative? Councilmember Remy?
The question is, so if this did not go through and this was part of the next phase of zone, and maybe it's to the chair, but would this be rezoned with a much higher height district?
Councilmember Remy, I'll direct your question to Mr. Lohr.
This site was not initially identified as part of Phase 2, so it's not part of this current phase. But as part of Phase 3, we would do another analysis to take a look at really any potential properties that could be mixed use in the future that weren't identified already.
Okay, thanks.
And Councilmember Remy, just to piggyback onto that, the property that is adjacent to the east that's currently developed with an apartment complex, those are single-story apartments, old Cardinal apartments. That is in phase 2 and will in the very near future get that mixed-use designation. So when you look at density transition, you've got the commercial intersection at Hardin Smoky Row stepping down to what's going to be a mixed-use designation at 4 to 5 story apartment residential, stepping down with the intensity transition to these 3-story buildings in the 35-foot height district, then stepping down to the single-family residential in the neighborhood. It really is classic planning density transition down to the single-family residential neighborhood.
Councilor Ramey.
Sorry, Chair Rosa de Padilla, when is that project supposed to be completed as far as the expansion of Hard Road?
No, that's an old project.
Yeah.
It's been
It's already
completed.
done. It's
yeah,
already
so
done.
in
That's right. I forgot.
2015 we passed it, and it was like a 1.5-year long process.
Yeah.
Probably felt much longer to the residents there.
Yep. Councilmember Green.
Mr. Hodge, you and I have talked about this a couple of times, but I promised you I'd ask you here to make it official, and so I'm going to do that. So you are committing to maintain the preservation of affordability here, and this is what my paper says, but you're going beyond what's required to preserve 30% of these units?
That is correct. 30% of the units will be offered at 80% of the area median income. That is among the various options that are available, including a fee in lieu. They will not be taking a fee in lieu to actually provide affordability here on this property.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I think that really shows your commitment, going above and beyond, not just for this project and the work we're trying to do here at the city, but also to making access to this, by all accounts, by everyone who's testified tonight, a really wonderful neighborhood for people who would otherwise be, to Director Prosser's testimony's point, priced out of it, right? You're allowing people to enter into this incredible community that sounds like a great one that I would love to live in. And I hope that if this project does go forward, that that our residents in the surrounding community will wrap their arms around and embrace these apartment dwellers the same way that you have your other neighbors.
I'm not clear why anybody would say that they wouldn't embrace neighbors. I mean, this is a big frustration that I have being Northland Community Council president when we talk about people coming into the community. I mean, these are not, I saw comments in here, it's like, we don't junk up the neighborhood with more crime. I mean, what do people think? Who do people think live in these places? Because these are teachers, these are nurses. It is sickening to me.
Any other questions from council members for the applicant's representative? Councilman Ross.
I just want to confirm, because I know we're talking a ton about the Height District. Just to confirm, we cannot make a decision one way or the other with regard to this Height District.
The question before us there's no piece of legislation before us that acts on raising or lowering the Height District.
Okay. So regardless, even if it wasn't preferred living, another developer can come and literally do the same thing, and we would have no.
Now, in order for this proposal to move forward, this rezoning is required. Now, again, you could build something.
Zoning has nothing to
You
do
could
with the height.
keep this rezone currently and certainly build a structure, certainly not this type of housing. You could build a structure up to that 35 feet, absent needing a rezoning from us. So the current property could be developed in another way up to that 35 feet.
Okay.
Absent this body having any legislative action to be taken.
Okay.
Other questions from council members for the applicant's representative?
Not so much for the applicant, but for you, Chair. When you talk about what could go there, and it could meet that height, limit or whatever, it could be anything, or does it have to be specifically?
It has to fit the current zoning district, and I'll defer to Mr. Rose about the types of things that currently fit within the zoning district. Again, the up to 35 feet, but there are certainly other things that could be there. Mr. Rose?
Correct. So the height district of this current district, which is LRR, allows for only single unit dwellings as far as residential is concerned, built at a minimum of 1 acre lots. So you're talking a 5-acre property, which would allow maybe 5 units, because you also have to consider infrastructure improvements on the parcel as well. The height district is 35 feet. Somebody could come in and build a 2-story dwelling as long as it meets that maximum 35-foot height district. They could build a 3-story unit as long as it meets that maximum 35-foot height district.
But it could be anything that goes there.
It could be, it would still need to be residential within the current
Okay,
zoning
okay,
district.
that's-
But
that's what
to
I'm
Mr.
asking.
Rose's point, you could have a number of single-family housing that could be up to 3 stories within this area. So again, the question really here isn't, from my vantage point, so much about height. I understand that's lots of the frustrations from the folks that have engaged on this issue, but frankly, the 35-foot height limit is on the property, whether or not this body takes action or not. Other questions for the applicant's representative? See none. Josh, thank you. I do want to pause and see if any of my colleagues have any comments they'd like to make prior to my closing comments. Councilor Weich.
Chair, appreciate that. And one, just want to thank all of the residents who've taken some time to kind of engage on this issue. We've had a number of meetings to kind of talk about concerns related to the project. And because the overwhelming response that I've received from residents in the district has been no, I'm going to give you my no vote tonight. I will say, I do think this project is warranted for this area. I do think we have to get used to changing the culture of what it looks like to have community. It is disappointing to hear folks say, I'm not going to embrace those who are going to live in an apartment. That's not what we want to hear as a council. It is disappointing to hear that folks are overall. There are apartments up and down the road near my house too. There are 5, 3, 2-story apartments down the street on Snoffer. This is going to happen. We have a city that is dealing with a housing crisis. We need to build more housing. But I will say it has been, like, the concern around how we do the zoning process. There were some legitimate concerns that residents expressed, and I want to take that on my end. And I would encourage my colleagues, we're not going to have easy zonings going forward. It's going to be upon us to be more proactive with our neighbors, to have conversations on the front end to say, hey, what is something we can legitimately address with still allowing housing to occur? So I do appreciate everyone reaching out. We've had a number of emails back and forth, a lot of in-person conversations, but I'm taking this as I need to do more because some of the same folks I've already spoke to are still here against the project. So I will take that as a lesson learned for me that there is more that we need to do as a council to ensure that the zoning process can be better because there is no easy zonings going forward.
Any other comments? Councilor Brosi, Deputy.
I just wanted to say, you know, what's interesting, this is, I grew up on the east side. I live on the east side still. I grew up in the neighborhoods that are between Bexley and Whitehall. And it's really interesting if you know anything about that area, right on the border of Bexley and Columbus, there's like a 3-story, it feels random building. Right next to it, we're about to build another higher story. This is surrounded by communities. Even on Eastmore Boulevard, there's like apartments. There's, you know, a whole bevy of apartments over by my elementary school. I think what's interesting to me is that I think growing clearly at some point we had a spike in population. And so because we need to provide people both with affordable apartments, houses, townhomes, whatever, and your area really reminds me of that, right? Like you go down the street and there's townhomes, there's apartment complexes, there's all of these things. And so I think there's nuances. You know, there was an area in the east side that I voted down because it was a huge lot with a tiny little building. And I'm like, what is this building going to do? And I don't know what the rest of this lot looks like. And so what I wanted to say to all of you, though, what is important to me, and I think especially as we talk about zoning, is when we think about traffic, when we think about congestion, we looked at Hard Road, we widened it, which is not something that we typically do. We do that in some areas, especially with Vision Zero principles. And so one thing that I am really, and I've told the chair this, I've told my colleagues this, is that as we continue to look at buildings go up faster, or I'm sorry, people move faster than buildings can go up or infrastructure hits our roads. And that is the unfortunate truth. And that's not just a Columbus problem or American problem, that's an everywhere in the world problem. And so as we look at infrastructure, and I know there's some concerns about Hard Road, it's something that I'm going to be certainly looking at. I want to, I had a niece with her 2 twins who lived in my basement for 2 years, because they were looking for affordable places to live. And it shouldn't just be like, I can only live here, I can only live here. She should be able to live anywhere that she wants to live in the city. And so when we think about providing more affordable housing for people for anywhere they want to go, that's where I am stuck. And so today, I'm going to be moving forward with voting for this. My hope for all of you is that I know right now when there are changes coming to your community, there are things you don't want. There are changes that happen in my community that I don't want. I don't blame the people, though, and I hope that you won't blame the new neighbors that decide that they want to live in your community because of the community that you've built.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other comments? Well, again, want to echo the comments from my colleagues and thank folks for their engagements. I think this is a situation where, certainly reasonable minds can disagree. And I think when we've talked a lot tonight about housing and the need for it, I think particularly in an area that has barely built more housing in recent years, that has virtually a 0% vacancy rate currently for folks to be able to move into that neighborhood, certainly for a median house price of $455,000. This is certainly an area that is we're not going to see a tremendous amount of development, simply just for the fact that there's not that much land there to be developed. And I think we've had lots of discussions here tonight and certainly by email about heights, districts, and requirements. Again, this is an area where folks can certainly disagree and do so reasonably. 35 feet, 3 stories, personally to me, I don't think is that significant of a change. That said, that folks can disagree with that, and that's okay. Change is hard. We know that this area in particular, there has not been this level of change in recent years as compared to other areas of Columbus where the discussion around height and density is more in the 4 or 5, 6 stories rather than literally 3 stories that we have here. I appreciate folks wanting to approach this in a manner in which it wasn't just a no. And if folks feel let down by the process, I'm sorry to hear that. These processes are not perfect because we literally have a zoning code that goes back 70 years. When we think about what density looked like in these parcels going back to that time, it's not reflective of what the future of Columbus is likely to be. And again, that can be disappointing to folks, but that's just the reality that we live in a city that is this size and a city that is currently growing. It is rare for this body to disagree with neighborhood groups. It's even rare for this body to disagree with the Development Commission. But I think this is certainly an instance in which when you compare the information that has been presented to the body, again, by our city staff, certainly reviewing this, looking through what changes have been made to the proposal, this feels reasonable to move forward at this point. And I know that will not make many people happy within that community. But again, we look at whether it's traffic, whether it's the density, we don't have to agree on all those things. But I do hope that folks allow their hearts to be open to allowing more people to call their neighborhood home. And I think fundamentally, when we have these questions, we look at the data, we look at the plans, we look at what this means, but also then look at holistically the city needs. And I think based upon that, I'm ready for this proposal to be moved forward. So first, I move to amend as submitted to the clerk by voice.
Bangston. Barosa de Padilla. Day Akauer. Dorans.
Yes.
Green. Remy. Ross. White. President Harden.
I next move for passage as amended by voice.
Bangston. Barosa de Padilla. Day Akauer. Dorans.
Yes.
Green. Remy. Ross. White. President Harden.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance number 1612-2026 to rezone 2006 East Fifth Avenue, being 0.44 plus acres located in the northeast corner of East Fifth Avenue and Bretnell Avenue from AR 12 Part Residential District to to LM2 Limited Manufacturing District. The site consists of one undeveloped parcel, and the requested rezoning will allow the site to be redeveloped with a less objectionable manufacturing office uses. Proposal is approved from city staff, the Development Commission, and the North Central Area Commission. I first move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross White, President Harden.
Thank you. Next move for passage as amended.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross White, President Harden.
Thank you. We next move to the council variances portion of our agenda. The first variance is 0291-2026, a granted variance of provisions of section 3312.27, parking setback line, 3333.18, building lines, and 3332.255, perimeter yard of the Columbus City Codes for property located at 2100 Hard Road to allow reduced building setback lines and perimeter yard from apartment building in the AR1 apartment residential district. This is the concurrent variance to the rezoning we just considered for a 112-unit apartment complex. The variance request is to reduce building setback lines and perimeter yards. Proposal approved from city staff, but a disapproval from the Far Northwest Civic Association. And just to be clear, variances are not considered by the Development Commission. Due to that disapproval from the Far Northwest Civic Association, we'll hear a staff report from the Department of Building and Zoning Services. Mr. Rose, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. As we stated earlier, the site is currently zoned LRR. The council variance was requesting to reduce the property's perimeter yard width on the east property line from 25 feet to 15 feet. This is actually the result of moving the development closer to the western property line as a result of trying to keep the development away from the single unit dwellings on the western side. Sorry, give me a second. The request includes a site plan which is compatible with the nearby multi-unit residential developments and is demonstrating the 112-unit maximum development for this property. City staff's recommendation is for approval for previously stated as that meets the city's objective for providing housing within the community.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Questions from my colleagues? Seeing none, I'll invite the applicant's representative forward for any comments. And as a reminder, since this is a variance, folks that are providing testimony will need to be sworn in before they provide said testimony. Please raise your right hand and be sworn in. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, nothing but the truth, as you shall answer under pains of penalty of perjury? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Chair Dorans, President Harden, members of council. David Hodge again, attorney for the applicant on this council variance request, Preferred Living. Two variances requested here. The first variance is to reduce the perimeter yard along the eastern perimeter from 25 feet to 15. The other variance is to reduce the building setback along Hard Road from 60 to 5. And that allows the property to frame the edge of Hard Road to do all of the things that Mr. Lohr previously mentioned in terms of increasing the pedestrian experience here as opposed to walking a sidewalk, having a big parking lot, and have buildings pushed way back deep into the site. Anytime there is a variance of this nature before council, we need to demonstrate that there is a practical difficulty under the Duncan versus Middlefield case and also under the Columbus City Code. I submit to the council that anything contrary to the variances requested would make a development that contradicts the Northwest Plan's street-facing design objectives. Enforcing the full 25-foot east perimeter yard would also remove the flexibility needed to expand the west yard for tree preservation. Whether this variance is substantial, we're talking about 10 feet east and west, and we're talking about 55 on the south in order to really fulfill current planning's objectives in order to make this site design be what it needs to be. So these are not substantial variances. A 10-foot reduction to the east yard is modest and is the necessary counterpart to the 10-foot increase on the west, which produces a net environmental impact and the tree preservation. Whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment. And again, we're not talking about the development. We're talking about 10-foot yards and a building setback. I submit to the council that nothing about this is going to substantially alter or create a substantial detriment to anybody in the immediate vicinity. So no impact whatsoever on the essential character of the neighborhood. Another of the criterion asks if governmental services will be adversely affected by the variances requested, and I submit to the council that 10 foot on yards and a building setback has zero impact whatsoever on the delivery of governmental services to the property. Adjusting the east and west yards does not interfere with drainage or service corridors. The expanded west yard improves stormwater absorption and canopy coverage. Water, sewer, refuse collection, and emergency services remain unaffected. We can't preserve these trees. We can't meet the design objectives but for these two variances. The last criteria is whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. The spirit of these yard and setback standards is to ensure attractive, functional, and environmentally responsible development. So I do submit to the council that none of those things are, this does help us to act in furtherance of the spirit of the zoning requirement. The last piece that I want to mention is it's this council variance, this companion council variance mechanism to the rezoning legislation that allows the incorporation of the site plan and this great building architecture that's up on the screen to be a part of the legislation. That's not just there for show. That is a binding commitment on Preferred Living to develop the property in accordance with that site plan and to build just that building on the property. So the council variance tool allows us through this ordinance to incorporate that mechanism. And I'll stop there, Chair Dorans, and do my best to answer questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Questions from my council colleagues, the applicant's representative? Seeing none, I will invite you up back there after public testimony.
Thank you.
We do have two public speakers time to speak on the variances here. First is Ms. Jennifer DeBlaise. Welcome to council. And again, just a reminder, I'm going to swear folks in when you get to the podium since it's a variance. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, nothing but the truth, as you shall answer under pains or penalty of perjury? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Floor is yours, ma'am.
Good evening, council members. My name is Jen, and I am a resident of Schoolway Court, and my home would share a property line with this development. I'm not speaking here tonight because I'm simply opposed to change. I'm here tonight because this isn't just about a variance on paper. It's about our neighborhood, our homes, and the standards we rely on to protect them. The proposal for 21 Hard Road asks for multiple variances, reduced setbacks, altered building lines, and less perimeter space. But when you strip away the technical language, what it really means is building bigger, tighter, and closer than what this community was ever meant to handle. And that matters because zoning laws are not just guidelines, they're promises. Promises to the people who chose to live here, who invested their savings, who built their lives around the expectation that these rules meant something. When those rules start to bend this much, that trust starts to break. This isn't a small adjustment. This is a fundamental change to how the space will feel, function, and impact everything around it. More congestion, less breathing room, more pressure on infrastructure that wasn't designed for this level of density. There is no trial period for decisions like this. My family and neighbors have to live with the outcome long after this vote is over. I think it's important to ask honestly, if this project can't meet the existing standards, why is it being pushed through anyway? Why are we asking the community to absorb the consequences of a plan that doesn't fit? Because the people who live here will be the ones dealing with it every single day, not the developers, not the planners, but the families, the neighbors, the residents who already call this place home. Again, we're not against growth. We're against being overlooked. We're against decisions that prioritize convenience over community. I'm asking you, please don't treat this as just another item on an agenda. This decision will shape the character of this area for years to come. Please uphold the standards that were put in place for a reason. Please stand with the residents who are asking to be heard, and please deny this variance.
Thank you. Mr. Rose, I wanted to ask you a question based on that, the testimony from our public speaker. So the practical result of the perimeter yard variance is in fact the development is moving further away from the single-family housing. Is that correct?
Correct. So the zoning code, you have to have a 25-foot perimeter yard for any type of apartment district. They're varying from 25 to 15 for the eastern property line because they're pushing the buildings farther away from the single-family homes to the west. That's the nature of why they need the variance.
Thank you. Any other questions from council members? Councilmember Green.
And so what would on the western side, what would then the distance be?
They're currently proposing 35 feet along the western property line and 15 along the east.
So again, the practical result of that variance request is that they've got less of a setback where there's not single-family housing and more of a setback where there is.
Correct. So more of a setback along the single-family housing, which is also where they're showing the trees on the site plan, where the current tree preservation is going to be located, and less of a setback near the existing apartment residential districts.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for public speaker? See none. Thank you. Our final speaker on this variance request is Mr. Kevin Craig. Mr. Craig, welcome to council. Mr. Craig, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, nothing but the truth as you shall answer under pain of penalty of perjury? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Floor is yours, sir.
Esteemed council members, thank you very much for your time. I originally had a speech prepared, but with the approval of 290, it's pretty much pointless to what I was going to say. So instead of speaking about that specifically, I'd rather address some of the things that we've discussed today. One thing that I wanted to kind of mention was we've continually talked about the 35 feet existing zoning. I think we all know that no one's going to build a three-story house or several three-story houses on this property. It just doesn't fit. Same thing with this particular property. It just doesn't fit. Two-story is fine. We're not looking also to, we don't want anyone to be homeless, and we are going to embrace our neighbors. There are people here that maybe are a little emotional. I hope you understand that, because this is a big thing for a lot of the people in the area. Myself included. My backyard backs up to where they want to put the trash bin. So I'm sure I'm going to be smelling that and dealing with animals and who knows what. But I'm okay with that. The thing that we're not really okay with, and I don't know if it can be undone from 290, is not just the height, but the density. The height definitely, like if someone wanted to build a three-story thing, it doesn't fit. It'll be the only three-story thing within about a mile. Everything else in that area is 2 stories or 1 story. All the apartments, all the businesses, everything. This is going to stick out like a sore thumb. I understand things might, build up from what I'm understanding in Zone N2 or something like that. And we're not necessarily against that either. But this 3-story proposal is backing up right up against a lot of housing. And that part doesn't fit. We need more buffer is what I think everyone is looking for. And again, none of us are saying that, we don't want additional housing, that we don't want low cost housing or whatever. My particular street, it's like the United Nations almost. We've got people from Brazil, several neighbors from Brazil. We've got some folks that were originally from Africa. They actually used to babysit our kids. We've got a guy from China down the street a little ways. Everyone gets along and everyone's great. So there's nothing about this, what we're talking about, that has anything to do with any of the typical isms. We just really think that in this particular spot, this is not 3-story and high density is not good. You could also go down to a 2-story and build a huge block and have 300 people there. We would also be against that because the amount of people that are going to be coming in and out of that area is going to make Hard Road much more difficult to traverse, either driving or walking or biking. I encourage every one of you to sit at Hard Road and Smoky Row in the evening when people are off of work. The road gets blocked in that intersection and people can't even drive. They're going around each other under the light. There's always issues there every day. I see people, kids getting hit almost all the time on Hard Road and Smoky Row. I think it's generally because people don't see a lot of people walking in that particular area, generally. That is increasing. But people, when they turn right, they don't always look for someone walking across the street because it's not a common occurrence at this time. I think that's going to increase problems and accidents. And with that, that's really all I had to say. Because, like I said, most of my prepared speech was kind of out the window after 290. But if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions from my colleagues?
Just
Councilor
quickly,
Ross.
as to the buffer request, isn't that what this variance is doing, creating more buffer between?
Correct.
Okay. 10-foot additional buffer?
Correct. So
Okay.
that 10-foot is being applied. So again, the development is being pushed towards the other boundary, and that 10 feet is being pushed over to where the existing single-family housing is.
I got it. Okay.
Yeah, with regards to this particular variance, if 290 is approved, I would rather see 291 be approved.
Got it. Okay.
Because I think it's better choice, but I think in general, a two-story with less dense would be better for everyone involved, including the future residents, because if they're trying to walk to places and it's getting overly busy, it's going to be more dangerous for them than it would be if it was a two-story with less density. I think it's just better for everyone, except for the developer. They're going to be making the money and getting the tax abatements. If they're really interested in helping out the community, as you indicated, you were talking with them and they wanted to drop the 30% or something like that to 80%. Instead of that, how about they invest in the community by paying the taxes? Because that's what this whole area needs. And that helps everyone. That helps the existing people who currently live there, and that also helps the people who would be future residents. I don't think they're interested in that, though. I think what they're really interested in is how much money they can make. Thank you.
Chair.
Councilmember White.
Just going to have clarification because we do hear this a lot. The property owner will still be paying taxes. What they won't be paying is the increase in value until that abatement rolls off. But they're still paying taxes. They're still investing in the community.
Councilmember Ross, do you have anything? Thank you. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? I'm not going to invite the applicants to represent back for. I think that variances are sort of plainly obvious here. I understand the speakers generally are against the prior rezoning. I think the hardships that have been identified here are valid under the Duncan standard. Again, I think if anything, from what I've heard from Mr. Clark, that these variances are actually beneficial post the previous piece of legislation moving forward. So based upon that, I'm going to go ahead and move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Second.
Bankston? Voice?
No.
Oh, okay. Bankston, Barossa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorrance, Green, Remy, Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you. Next move to adopt the findings of staff, the findings of council.
Second.
Bankston, Barossa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorrance, Green, Remy, Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you. Next move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Second.
Bankston, Barossa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorrance, Green, Remy, Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you. And finally, move for passage as amended.
Bankston, Barossa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorrance, Green, Remy, Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance number 1582-2026, granting variance provisions in section 3356.03 C4 permitted uses, 3361.02 permitted uses in 3312.09 aisle of the Columbus City Codes for property located at 988 Dublin Road to allow an automatic car wash and reduced aisle width in the CPD Commercial Plan Development District. Site consists of one undeveloped parcel, and a small portion of another parcel will be developed with a parking lot, and the requested council variance will allow development of an automatic car wash facility. A council variance is required because an automatic car wash is not allowed in the current district. Proposal is approved from city staff, and there is no area commission or civic association within that area. I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you. And next, we move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you. Finally, move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance number 1599-2026, granted variance provisions section 3332.033, R2 Residential District, 3370.05 permitted uses, and 3312.49C required parking in the Columbus City Codes for property located at 3110 Jetstream Drive to allow a Type A childcare home with reduced parking in the LR2 Limited Residential District. This site consists of one parcel developed with a single unit dwelling, and the requested council variance will allow an existing dwelling to be used as a Type A childcare facility. A Type A family daycare in Ohio is an in-home childcare facility where a provider cares for 7 to 12 children in their personal residence. These facilities require state licensing through the Ohio Department of Children and Youth and follow stricter rules, including fire and building inspections, than the smaller Type B facilities. The proposal is approved from city staff, but a disapproval from the Northland Community Council. Due to that disapproval, we'll now hear a city staff report, starting with Mr. Joe Rose. Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Chair. The site consists of one parcel developed with a single unit dwelling in the LR2 Limited Residential District as allowed by ordinance number 1409-98. The requested council variance will allow a Type A family child care home at this location, and a variance to reduce the required parking from 5 spaces to 2 is also included in the request. Council variance is required because the LR2 Limited Residential District does not allow Type A family child care homes. To the south, east, and west of the site are single-unit dwellings in the LR2 Limited Residential District. To the north are single-unit dwellings in the R1 Restricted Suburban Residential District within Blendon Township. The site is located within the planning boundaries of the Northland 1 Area Plan, which recommends low to medium density residential land uses at 4 to 6 dwelling units per acre, consistent with the primary residential use of the property. It is noted that the site is located within the Northland Community Council, whose recommendation is for disapproval, citing the required parking variance as the reason for the disapproval. Staff does recognize that there are practical difficulties with the reduction in required parking included in the request. The requested council variance will allow the Type A family child care home in this location, and since the primary use of the property will remain a single-unit dwelling, staff has no objection to the requested use, which must comply with the Ohio Revised Code requirements and be inspected as required by the state of Ohio. Therefore, city staff's recommendations for approval, and I'll happily answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Questions from my colleagues for the department? Seeing none, I will call on Mr. Dan Bleshman from Traffic Management.
Thank you, Chair Dorrance, President Harden, members of council. In regards to the variances requested in conjunction with this application to permit a Type A family child care home and the requested variance to reduce the number of required parking spaces from 5 to 2, please be advised that this site includes a 2-car garage and adequate space within the existing driveway that will allow a minimum of 2 vehicles to simultaneously pick up and drop off children on this site in a safe manner. In consideration that the interval of time for parent pickup and drop off is a short duration, the variance to reduce the number of required parking spaces can be supported. With these comments noted, the Department of Public Service is in support of the variances requested within this application, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bleshman. Questions from my colleagues? Seeing none, I'm going to invite the applicant forward, Ms. Annalise Santiago de Carter. Welcome to council. And thank you for taking care of our kiddos. So, again, since the variance, I'll have to swear you in when you're at the podium.
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to swear you in real fast. Yeah. I know it's very formal. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, nothing but the truth, as you shall answer under pains of penalty of perjury? If so, please say I do.
Hi, sir.
Floor is yours, ma'am.
Well, my name is Annalise. I've been working in childcare for 18 years. I was an English teacher in my country, and I moved here in the United States in 2011. So this has actually been my dream. It's something that I like to do. Um, I teach my siblings how to read, how to count, and all of that. And I've been working also in childcare center for over 3 years now. I was an infant teacher. Now I'm an assistant director, and I just wanna give the kids the same, my community, the same opportunity that the kids and the childcare that I work for have, with me in there. So.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. I know you met with the Northland Community Council, and they had lots of sort of requests of the proposal. And from my reading of what has occurred, I think that you have addressed virtually everything that they had asked you to. So you could talk a little bit about some of the changes that were made based on the interaction with the Northland Community Council?
Yeah, so one of the things that they said, it was like they were a little bit concerned about like traffic, because I was planning on use my because sometimes I didn't look through that like very well, but I was trying to use my garage as like indoor playground, so that way the kids will be able to play there when it was like too hot or too cold. And they brought up to me that it will be a little bit hard to because I need to park my car, need to park my staff car, and then where we're gonna do it. So I just decided to avoid that part and using because it's like two garage parking space where I can park my car, my staff car, and then the driveway can be used from parents to pick up and drop off. And basically, like the time for them to pick up and drop off will be about like 2-3 minutes, because they don't actually have to walk in. You just can pass the kid out to them.
Thank you. Questions for council members?
How many children can you have at capacity?
For type A is between 7 and 12 kids.
Okay. And those could also be siblings.
Yes.
So if they're dropping off, I mean, it could be, really, we're talking about a few cars
it can be
coming in.
2 kids, 3 kids,
Right.
same family, same household.
Okay.
Any other questions from my council colleagues for the applicant? Seeing none. Thank you very much for being here, and I appreciate your responsiveness to the concerns of the Northland Community Council. Thank you for that. So again, this property will continue to function as a single dwelling, matching the neighborhood. None of that changes. Obviously, the practical difficulties of actually being able to meet some of the standards in order for this to be a type A facility clearly meets, I think, the hardships that have been articulated under the case law here. Again, appreciate the applicant being responsive. I think lots of those changes occurred after the Northland Community Council took a vote. That's certainly a neighborhood group that I think we've had a long, well-working relationship on these things. So I certainly think those concerns were well merited, and certainly the applicant, I think, has demonstrated their concern and took care of that in what ultimately is being voted on before the body here tonight. So with that, I'd like to move to accept the staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Alcala, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Next, I move to adopt the findings of staff, the findings of council.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Alcala, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
And finally, move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Alcala, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance number 1610-2026 to grant a variance provisions section 3332.039 R4 Residential District, 3312.49C required parking, and 3321.05 B12 vision clearance, and 3325.703A3 development and design guidelines residential zoning district, 3325.0801 maximum lot coverage, 3325.803A building lines, 3325.805 maximum floor area ratio, 3325.089 landscaping area and treatment, 3332.25A2 required side parking, and 3332.25B required side yards, and 3332.27 rear yard. The Columbus City Codes for property located at 190 King Avenue to allow an apartment building with reduced development standards in the R4 residential district. This site consists of one parcel built with an 8-unit house subject to the University District overlay. The requested council variance will allow reduced development of the site with the 20-unit apartment building. A council variance is required because the current district allows a maximum of 4 units per dwelling. The request includes a variance to require parking, vision clearance, residential development, and design guidelines, lot coverage, building lines, floor area ratio, landscaping area and treatment, and side and rear yards. Proposal is approved from city staff and the University Area Commission and the University Impact District Review Board. I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Banks, Timber, Rosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you. Next move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Banks, Timber, Rosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
And finally move for passage.
Banks, Timber, Rosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance number 1613-2026 to grant a variance of provisions of section 3367.01 M2 Manufacturing District, 3312.49C required parking, and 3312.51 loading space, and 3367.15 ACD M2 Manufacturing District. Special provision of the Columbus City Codes for property located at 2006 East 5th Avenue to allow 3-unit dwellings with a proposed mixed-use building, reduced development standards in the LM2 Limited Manufacturing District. This is a concurrent variance to the rezoning we heard earlier on our agenda for limited manufacturing, office, and residential use. The requested council variance will allow a residential component of a proposed mixed-use building, which consists of 3-unit dwellings and includes reduced development standards for required parking, loading space size, parking, building setback lines, and landscaping. A council variance is required because the current district does not allow residential uses. Proposal is approved from city staff and North Central Area Commission. I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Banks, Timber, Rosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you. Next move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Banks, Timber, Rosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you. And finally move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Banks, Timber, Rosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
And I finally move for passage as amended.
Banks, Timber, Rosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you. And finally, we have ordinance number 1614-2026, granted variance provisions section 3356.03, C4 permitted uses, 3370.05 permitted uses, and 3370.06 standards, and 3370.07 conditions and limitations of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 3920 Hampton Square Boulevard to allow drive-through only coffee shop with a reduced parking setback line in the LC4 Limited Commercial District. Site consists of 2 parcels developed with a former restaurant, and the requested council variance will allow a drive-through only coffee shop with no indoor seating. The council variance is required because the current district allows only accessory pickup units but does not allow a standalone drive-through business. A variance to reduce parking setback is included in the request. Proposal has approval from city staff and the Greater Southeast Area Commission. I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Banks, Timber, Rosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you. And next move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Banks, Timber, Rosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
And finally move for passage.
Banks, Timber, Rosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Thank you, Council President. That's all we have in tonight's zoning agenda.
If there's no further coming for council, motion to adjourn. Please call the roll.
Banks, Timber, Rosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Meeting is adjourned.